And good morning. Oh, boy. I thought it was better today. Maybe that's just because I hadn't talked yet. Yikes. Good morning. It's Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I have to call a soccer match tonight. I'm going to need this to get better during the day. Hang on. Don't mind me. You guys go ahead with the show. I'll just be sucking down cough drops.
Oh, okay.
Go right ahead. Whatever. All
right. So what do you want me to do?
What did you have prepared?
Let's see. Pretty, man, those refs in Moraga last night were.
I don't think it was the refs. I think it was they didn't get a defensive stop. They played really well. They
did.
Offensively,
I mean, it was if Tyler Tejada breathed on them though. It was,
Yeah, it's not. It wasn't. You're doing the homer bit. It wasn't about the refs. They needed to get some stops. They didn't get them. But they
could have covered
well.
the first half. That would have been nice too.
Oh, that's a different problem.
Yeah.
I apparently had a fantasy miracle that I swear to God I was.
Oh my God.
I was not paying attention to whatsoever.
So I told you, I needed to make sure Baker didn't get 23, and we get 6-point passing touchdowns in our league too. So it was very close. When they won when the Chiefs won the coin toss, I was like, he was at 22. He was at 22.
A far more dramatic miracle than mine. I again hadn't been paying attention whatsoever. I just sort of given up. This is the league. This is Ryan Ripken's league.
Whoa.
I was playing. I'm playing 4 leagues. This one is Ryan's, and I was playing our buddy Steve Johnson last night. And all of a sudden, I looked down at my phone. I couldn't believe that Tampa didn't go for 2. I still can't believe that Tampa didn't go for 2.
There were 4 different occasions this weekend where a team ties it. I guess make it a 1-point game. With less than 40 seconds left or something like that, and each and every time they just kick the extra point.
Well,
Seattle did it. Miami did it.
I have different opinions about different circumstances, but particularly like when you're facing Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Like, it's one thing you make that decision. Seattle got the ball, went down the field, had a chance to win. They decided not. Like, you want to talk about them eschewing the field goal? We could talk about that. That's questionable. But, like, you're facing Patrick Mahomes. You go for 2. I get a text at 11:26 p.m. last night that says, "Hate you." I said, "Huh. I guess I must have missed something." I was down by 3 going into overtime. I had Kareem Hunt. Now, tell you what I'm not going to do, because I learned my lesson last year. Not going to talk trash. Because when I beat Steve in the regular season last year by like 80 points, I talked trash on social media.
Well, you have to talk trash when.
And then when I lost to him in the playoffs, he ended me. Like, he kept receipts and went in on me when he beat me in the playoffs. So I said to him last night, buddy, I enjoyed the competition. I look forward to a potential playoff rematch. That's all I have to say about the topic. That's all I have to say about it, but it was a miraculous win. I didn't get such luck for the league where I had the Chiefs defense and he had Rashad White. Did not have so much luck there. But, the Chiefs win. They remain unbeaten despite the fact they have to play with those horseshoes up their asses, which I got to be honest with you, I think makes it even more remarkable. And in fact, I have less an issue with kicking the extra point. I have an issue with it. But the insanity of them calling a timeout after getting the first down, I'll never get over. Like, teams being so utterly unaware. They just gave the Chiefs 25 seconds at the end of the game. And I get it, the Chiefs didn't do anything with it. But why? Why? There's 30 seconds left. Get up, be prepared to run a play. It's unbelievable. If you get down to like 15 seconds, now it's time. Let's take some timeouts. Go from there. That said, it doesn't really make a difference, as I had said last week. Even if the Chiefs lose last night, the likelihood the Ravens are crawling out of that hole to get back into the race for the number 1 seed is next to none. It's what it is. The AFC playoffs will almost certainly go through Kansas City. Just the way it goes. The 2 times the Ravens have gone to the Super Bowl, they went on the road in the AFC Championship game. Just worth pointing out. Coming up on the program today, we're going to talk some Ravens. Mark Clayton's going to join us, former Ravens wide receiver. He really liked the pickup of Diontae Johnson. We'll let him explain that to us. Also later on this hour, we will preview Waiver-Wire Wednesday. Already seeing some trade movement today. Khalil Herbert goes to the Cincinnati Bengals with Zach Moss sidelined. Does that mean that you need to pick up Khalil Herbert? Or is it just Chase Brown's gig, and Khalil Herbert's only there to be a backup? We'll talk to Joe Serpico about all of that. Also coming up on the program today, Maryland women opened up with a victory last night at UMBC. They got a big showdown against Duke on national TV on Sunday. Brenda Frese will join us to talk all about that. And every Tuesday moving forward, our buddy Patrick Stevens will be joining us, of course, at Discourse. Washington Post, Blue Ribbon, among other places. He will check in with us and talk about not only Towson coming up just a little bit short, but obviously a hell of an effort out at St. Mary's. The Derek Queen show last night, 2020 performance against Manhattan.
We watched all of it, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't watch a single play, but I know this. It's not going to slow down the Derek Queen hype, and you might want to pick up this print issue of Press Box, which is available for free right now at your neighborhood Royal Farms. That's Derek Queen, Julian Reese on the cover, the Baltimore-built duo that's reunited in College Park. Pretty good in the debut of Derek Queen. Yes, I get it. It was Manhattan. I'm not trying to overreact to it. But
it was a game and a half, though. So
that's true. That's true. It was. So you can read all about them inside this print issue of Press Box. Go get it for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. You can read it all, PressBoxOnline.com. Yes, we play the waiting game now. What may or may not the Ravens do? Other moves that have already happened today. I mentioned Khalil Herbert. The Zadarius Smith thing that looked like it was unfolding over the weekend apparently is legit. The Zadarius Smith to the Detroit Lions. There's two ways of looking at that. One being if you were hoping that Zadarius Smith could be the answer for the Baltimore Ravens, you're disappointed. I always thought that one was a little bit less likely because even though Zadarius Smith isn't a long-term, it's not like, look, the Browns, if they were going to trade Myles Garrett, were never going to trade Myles Garrett to the Baltimore Ravens. No way, no how. Zadarius Smith I didn't feel the same way about, but it's still tricky, particularly for an in-season trade. Again, it's not as if there have never been in-division trades. They have happened. But it's just tricky. It's really hard to go about doing it because it's possible that they'll say, hey, we'll do it, but you got to pay an interdivision tax in order to do it. And then you feel like you're paying beyond what the actual value of the player is, and that makes it hard. There's also like the Zadarius Smith history where it looked like the Ravens were going to get him back, and then he didn't sign here, and I don't know if that's led to frostiness between the Ravens and Zadarius Smith. It might be that it's all good. I don't know. And one more thing, like a lot of people are talking about Zadarius Smith like his contract ends. There is the potential for his contract to end. You could get out of it, but he is under contract for next year. And while the Browns, who knows what their situation is next year, do they still feel like they have to just keep throwing Deshaun Watson out there despite the fact that he stinks because they're paying him so much money? Do they just go ahead and draft their quarterback and play him next year? A team acknowledging we're not going to be in it next year tends to be a bridge too far. So going back to that division thing, even though it's not Myles Garrett, it's not for the foreseeable future, even for next year to say, hey, we're going to give you a piece that might help you beat us next year when we're going to be good again, that's tough. So I never thought that it was going to work out for Zadarius Smith to be the answer in Baltimore. That said, it was a small price. And this is, I think, the encouraging aspect if you think the Ravens need to be in the market for edge rush help. The price for Zadarius Smith was him and a seventh rounder for a fifth this year and a sixth the following year. That is a minimal price. And I get it. Zadarius Smith's also like 32 years old at this point, something like that.
That's right.
So it shouldn't be an extraordinary price, but again, it suggests that the next layer of the edge rush market just isn't that expensive. Hopefully, that works out for the Ravens. And what it would also suggest is if the Lions were perhaps the competition for some of these other names that are out there, whether it's reunion with Jadeveon Clowney, whether it's Azeez Ojulari, then perhaps the Zadarius Smith acquisition means they've done what they're going to do. Don't know that, but perhaps that's the case. So that would be the only thing that I would have to say about that. And then the Cowboys trading for Jonathan Mingo. Okay. You lose Dak Prescott and you say, now we're going for it. Not that Jonathan
Worried
Mingo.
about CeeDee Lamb.
What do you mean, worried about CeeDee Lamb
Yeah,
from a fantasy perspective?
Yeah,
or?
that he's hurt. That he's hurt.
Oh. Is there a reason to think that?
I don't know. Well, I mean, he said his shoulder.
I know,
his AC
but-
joint or something. Well, if Dak's not playing, maybe he doesn't want to play. I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know how that works.
I mean, in fairness, I have no idea. Again, this probably is a signal that they're not going to move Micah Parsons because they're not punting.
What did they give up for Mingo?
A 4th-round pick, right?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? Like, I don't know what they're doing, dog. But again, trying to figure out, it's the part that we're apparently not allowed to say, which is their decision-making is done by a senile man. And we're not allowed to talk about that. We were apparently allowed to talk about it with our former.
We got a 7th, too.
Great. We were apparently
Jerry
allowed
did
to
it
talk.
again.
We were allowed to talk about it with our current president. We were allowed to talk about the fact that there's a cognitive decline. We're for some reason not allowed to talk about it with Jerry Jones.
He's still got his weekly radio hits.
Right, which are bonkers, off the rails. We're, for whatever reason, not allowed to discuss. We still talk about Jerry Jones the way we talked about him 10 years ago. Like, well, he just might not have it anymore. Not as a GM. He might not have it anymore as a person. It's bat-ass the way we dance around this with Jerry Jones. Like, I don't know what he's thinking. What is he thinking? He's thinking he's 82. That's what he's thinking. It's like watching the other guy that's running for president try to like put sentences together. God, man. But we're not, whatever reason, we're not supposed to say that about Jerry Jones. So I don't have any idea what to make of the Jonathan Mingo thing. And I think I like Jonathan Mingo.
Yeah.
I guess I'm a little surprised that the Panthers would trade him away.
I mean, he wasn't really doing much, I guess. Like, and they like Coker. They like.
Yeah, they clearly like Leggett.
Yeah.
Like, and Thielen's coming back too. If he doesn't get dealt. I mean, at this point, I don't know why they wouldn't. Oh God, that is right.
I mean,
it
but
does
it is
scream
like
Steelers, doesn't it?
What's Thielen got left? I mean,
I don't know. I think he could still be very helpful to a team like the Steelers. I think that when your options are Calvin Austin and Van Jefferson, I think that yes, Adam Thielen could be very helpful for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We got how many more hours? 6, the better part of 6 hours to go. I mentioned already 3, trades of note today, and we'll see what might still be coming. If it happens during the course of the show, we'll react to it. If it happens after the show, it'll probably happen as soon as we go off the air. Let's be honest. If we stretch it out to 12:30 today, it'll happen at 12:33. If we call it a show at 12:18, it'll happen at 12:21. Like, that's the way that it'll go. So maybe, in fact, you should plan your lunch hour around that. Like, just be aware that's probably the way that it's going to go. And this course, I would be surprised. I would be surprised if there isn't a move made by the Baltimore Ravens. It takes 2 to tango, obviously, and you might think the Ravens might think they have the deal lined up. And then the team they're working with backs out at the last minute, and they go scrambling, and it just doesn't work out. But I would be very surprised at this point if there wasn't a defensive addition for the Baltimore Ravens. If there's not, I will go back to the thing that we've been talking about. I brought it up with all of our guests yesterday. You're not going to get me to do the bit where I say, well, this is a failure. The Ravens have a team that is capable of winning the Super Bowl. They will have a smaller margin for error, and they will need internal options defensively to be better. But I don't believe that the answer is if they don't make a move, they can't win the Super Bowl. I think that would be a dramatic overreaction. I just think it makes it more difficult. I think there's a lot of teams that look a certain way in October that look a different way come January. And I'm not telling you that means that I think the Ravens defense is going to be otherworldly come January. But I think we are slaves of the moment. I think the recency bias thing, seeing what happened in the Browns game, all of that would make some of us react in the way that if the Ravens don't do anything at the deadline, we'll say, well, that's it. There's no way this team can win the Super Bowl. And I will not agree with you about that topic. But I still want them to make a move, and I still think they will. I'd be surprised if they don't. But if they don't, I'm not going to panic about it. I'm not going to suddenly pretend like, well, gee, gosh, golly, how could possibly this team that's won 6 of their last 7 games, most of them in blowout fashion, against good teams, how could they possibly win a Super Bowl? How could the team that came a toe short of beating the team that is the favorite to win the Super Bowl, potentially, I get it. They would have had to have gone. I get it. How could that team possibly win a Super Bowl?
Well, after this weekend, are we sure they would have gone for 2?
It's fair. Well, we know. They had put up, they were going for 2. We do know that. I don't know they would have gotten it, but they have Lamar Jackson, so I do like their chances. Again, the point being that if that's what you're doing, if you go that path and you say, well, there's just no way, this is ridiculous, you're just talking out of your ass for the sake of talking out of your ass. And I get it. That's what we're good at in this country. That's who we are as a people, man. Just say anything. Be loud. It doesn't have be nonsensical. Reward that behavior in this country. We are a stupid, stupid people. Let's all go watch YouTubers box. Like that's who we are.
Big one coming up.
Yeah. Let's go put some Brondo on the plants, baby. It could be a big week for us. We are a dumb, dumb people. That said, I'll be the one to continue to, do that idiotic bit that I do where I'm like, maybe we don't just say the dumbest stuff. Maybe we actually try to be practical. Maybe we just try to look at it and say, hey, yeah, they'd be better if they get some defensive help, but they're a really good football team. They're just a football team with one particular deficiency that has to improve. However you go about doing it, it has to improve. The pass defense has to get better. However, deadline, scheme change. Femi pointed out this week he thought there was less. He always uses the word cute. There was less cute stuff. There was less disguising. We're gonna do 5 plays later. I didn't really do even as much film. I'm never gonna be the guy that's gonna be able to go back and rewatch the entirety of the game. That time in my life has passed. I don't know. Maybe if I'm still somehow doing this once my kids are older. Maybe I could do it then.
Or 11 and 13,
yeah. Yeah, I think it's going to have to be a little bit older than that. Or if for some reason somebody starts paying me to do it. If somebody says, Glenn, we'll pay you more money to rewatch the games. Well, then you know what? I can make time. That can happen. But right now, you're just not going to bust my busy schedule of Monday Night Trivia. It's just not going to happen. It's too important. It's sacred. I can't let the team down. How would we have possibly finished in second place last night?
Again.
We beat the team that's been our boogeyman.
Just change the name to
we beat the team.
Change your team name to second place.
We fell a point short of a different team instead. 1 point short.
Destiny.
1 point short. Thankfully, our movie guy pissed away 2 points.
You're a movie guy.
It's been tough. He gets a lot right. This is the part. I don't talk.
Okay.
There was a picture round that was all movie pictures. We would have gotten 2 of them had it not been for him. Legitimately, I knew 2 of them. After somebody pointed out, I think somebody else on the team had a 3rd, but we would have missed the other. It's not like we don't need him. We just need him to be better. That's our issue. And in fairness, one of his answers last night, I immediately knew was a terrible answer. I'm like, dude, what? Why? But he was like, dude, take it up. It's a bad answer, bro. The question, it was
what was the category?
They do a round where it's like you get 6 points if they give 3 hints. If you guess after the first hint and get it right, you get 6 points. If you do it after the second hint and get it right, you get 4 points. And if you wait to the 3rd hint, it's really easy. It's a free 2 points. So the first question was like, this was the highest grossing movie of the 2000 decade, to 2000 to 2009, that wasn't part of a film franchise.
Ooh.
I was like, that's tough, right? Like, we all have some ideas, some stuff that we're throwing around in our mind.
Franchise.
We were
Finding Nemo.
One that was definitely part of a franchise, pal. Finding Dory. You don't remember that?
Yeah. Okay, but it wasn't at the time.
Doesn't matter. It was part of a franchise.
Okay.
That's the question. Part of a franchise. So we threw around Gladiator at first, and we're like, oh, right, there's a Gladiator 2 right now, so it wouldn't qualify. So then the second question was something like, this was the only movie in the top whatever to not be an English language movie. And I was like, huh? Like, what? And I was struggling, and our movie guy said, oh, I've got it, and wrote down on the piece of paper, Slumdog Millionaire. And I said, buddy, I know Slumdog Millionaire was popular, but it did not gross enough money that it would be on this list. He was confident. He said, take it up. 4 points. The next question was, this film was directed by Mel Gibson and starred Jim Caviezel as Jesus. Of course, the answer being The Passion of the Christ. While, you know, not exactly the comedy romp that I expected it to be, certainly a very popular film that made a boatload of money. Unlike where do you think, because I did look up, Griffin, I looked up the top 100 grossing films of the 2000 to 2009. Where do you think Slumdog Millionaire finished in the top 100?
75.
Yeah, keep going.
85.
How about not on the list?
Well.
At least we didn't light those 2 points on fire, and at least that wasn't the difference in whether we won or lost last night. At least that wasn't the case. Movie guy. Jerk. All right. Sorry, that's not related to the topic. That is not germane to the topic at hand, and I apologize. Let's grab a break. When we come back in, we are...
So I was texting him like 2 minutes ago, so that's why...
Well, we'll take a break, and we'll try to talk to Mark Clayton on the other side of the break. That's the plan. All right? That's what we're doing, and if not, we'll go from there. Glenn Clark Radio. Brace yourselves for an unparalleled in-person betting experience at the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbook and Bars in Canton and Towson. Experience the thrill of live betting with Baltimore's only state-of-the-art Vegas viewing TV experience. Choose between our on-site tellers or the convenience of our self-bet kiosks to place your bets. Gather your betting buddies and head over to the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks today. Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton. The ultimate destination for game day excitement, great food, and live in-person betting. Must be 21. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Go to mdgamblinghelp.org.
Hey Baltimore, it's number 10, Arthur Millette, and I'm hoping you'll slot us in all season long for the Arthur Millette Show. We will be traveling around the region all season, giving you the chance to get to know me and my teammates. There will be some football talk and a lot more. You can watch this show live on Pressbox's Facebook and YouTube pages and listen every Friday night on 105.7 The Fan. Find out more at pressboxonline.com/Millette. The Arthur Millette Show, the only show in town that's a work of art.
The next Arthur Millette Show is Tuesday, November 12th at Mother's North Grill in Timonium. It's brought to you by 1-800-GAMBLER and Easy Pass.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino in Hotel Maryland, at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin, and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. There, you just saved money with Easy Pass, all without slowing or receiving a notice in the mail. Well done, thrifty driver, well done. Get your Easy Pass at DriveEasyMD.com.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
All right, back in here on GCR. I remember catching up with this guy earlier on this season. The Ravens are struggling. He's like, I'm not worried. There's nothing to worry about. And he knew exactly what he was talking about. He's one of the best guys I've ever known. Former Ravens wide receiver, the man behind Live Headphones. We welcome our buddy Mark Clayton back to GCR. Mark, it's Glenn. It's always great to catch up, brother. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Thanks for having me. What's up, Glenn?
Everything good, dude? What's going on? I mean, you're like such a busy man. You're an international like business mogul. How do you even have time to watch football these days?
Man, I made it a point as I got into this space, and my mentor, Win Kramer over at JLab Audio, has been tremendous. I saw a schedule for the year, and built in that schedule is family time, and football. And so, I actually heading to China next week. We moved it from this week to next week because we had some family events going on, so didn't want to miss that. But man, we move, we get it done, but family first.
I know
how like the Ravens organization.
I know how important family is to you. I'm not remotely surprised by that, bro. It's great to hear your voice as always, man.
Likewise, brother.
I want to talk to you because I saw your tweet about Diontae Johnson. I want to talk to you about that. But before, taking me back to earlier this year when we talked, and there was some consternation, right? The Ravens started 0-2, and things didn't look great. There was worried. You were confident that wasn't going to be the case. Can you take us back to why you were so confident? And obviously the fact that you were 100% right, that there was no reason to be worried about it.
Man, it's coming off of last year, then coming into this year, seeing the move that we made, it made sense. Obviously we lost, a few on defense and in our offensive line, but man, just watching those first couple games was like we're right there, and in the NFL season, it takes a few games sometimes for offenses and defenses to figure it out and click. But just knowing our coaches, our staff, our personnel, and losing close games to me where it's like a toe or a blown coverage, those things are easily fixable. Things that when you look at the greater good, man, we moved the ball well. We scored when we had to. Defenses, and we're still figuring that out. We had a great day last week, but it's still to me like not where we were a year ago. But at the end of the day, we have half of the season left, and still so much room for improvement. And to have that explosion off of essentially a bounce back game that, God, we dropped the game on our own. Having that bounce back was phenomenal, and then we still have room for improvement, which is incredible. I
want to talk to you about Zay Flowers, if I could, because it's funny. I think we all know Zay Flowers has been really good, but the context of this, like my producer Griffin brought up yesterday, he said, hey, is Zay Flowers like in the argument as a top 10 receiver in the NFL? And I was like, I don't think so. I don't think he's quite there, but it's not far from there. I saw our friend Mike Golick Jr. was tweeting this weekend, like there's probably more similarities between Zay Flowers and Tyreek Hill than we give him credit for, which seems, again, like that seems crazy when you say it because, like, this is Tyreek Hill. I wonder if maybe we still don't give Zay, no pun intended, Zay Flowers all of his flowers, right? Like I wonder if we still don't fully appreciate exactly how good he really is and what he's brought to Lamar Jackson in this Ravens offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reluctance has to do with production. And we hadn't seen it quite like the levels of Tyreek Hill, but man, to me, when he passes the eye test, I think he's absolutely right and spot on. That is the name that swirled around in my head early as they entered Baltimore, and seeing the play. Like, I want to say it was last year. There was a little screenplay. He took 70 yards and they called it back. That was one of a handful of plays that happened that was like, oh my God, like this kid is ridiculously explosive and sudden. That is extremely dangerous, especially if we can get the ball in his hands in space. We got a home run hitter week in, week out. You never know what you're going to get. And then teams are going to have to take that in consideration and respect it. And with Monken and where our offense is rolling, man, we do such a great job of breaking tendencies and making teams cover every ounce of the field. Then there's Lamar and, his newly found accuracy and anticipation in the pass game, not to mention what he does off schedule. It is tough out there. And so if Zay is kind of coming into this role where we're just seeing, he's averaging 20 yards a catch,
right?
Because he's so explosive. I mean, like I said, you talked about the tweet that I had with Diontae, and it was like, man, this is literally the rich getting richer. An elite offense getting another elite weapon that makes defenses have to consider something else.
So Mark Clayton is with us here on GCR. Let's talk about Diontae, right? Because to me, the move itself is a no-brainer, right? Like, it cost them literally nothing, right? Like, even if it doesn't work out somehow, who cares, right? Like, you didn't pay anything for him. But tell me what you think Diontae can bring. A lot of people around here still remember the guy in Pittsburgh that had some drops issues, but the numbers would suggest he's cleaned that up over the last couple of seasons. What do you think Diontae Johnson, as he assimilates, and we're not stunned that he wasn't featured in his first game. He arrived 5 days before that.
Yeah.
But, like, what do you think he can bring to this offense?
I think what he does is bring, some more efficiency. Watching, he's a pure route runner. I put him. He's definitely in the top half of the NFL, maybe even top 25 in terms of just pure route running. And when you have that, you got a guy that you're going to be able to trust is going to be open when he's in, no matter what the play is called. He's going to be where he's supposed to be when he's supposed to be there, and there's not a lot of pressure on him to be the guy. And so I think the freedom that he'll have to play with his elite route running abilities will be tremendous and obviously a great asset to the team.
Mark, there is, some history of him. We remember him getting into the fight with Minkah Fitzpatrick on the sideline, and there have been some questions about him as a teammate. I wonder what you make of the argument that people will say, hey, get him around. He's never really been around a high-level quarterback. Even like the couple of games he had with Ben Roethlisberger at the beginning of his career, that was Ben Roethlisberger that was clearly past his prime and could not get the ball downfield anymore. This is the first time he's ever been around a really good quarterback. And then what you make of the culture of the Baltimore Ravens and how that might have an impact on someone that's maybe, not had the best reputation to this point in his career.
Correct, yeah. There's a level of growing up that definitely happens, having those, instances. And, I don't know, what was going on, why a defense, if a receiver's getting into it with a defensive guy on the sideline in the game, there's something deeper than that. They have been chipping or chirping before that. But I'm like, I think him coming over here is different. He dipped his toe in Carolina and found out how, shitty it can be.
I appreciate the honesty.
Organization. And, and his appreciation for being in what I would say is the best culture in football and the best organization in football from administration down. I think we're going to see a different Diontae. And with Lamar as the leader as he is, man, it ain't no room for ego. If you're number one, I mean, the best player on the planet doesn't have an ego, there's no way you can come in that locker room and have an ego.
That's a great point.
And he'll be put in check pretty quickly, I'm sure. But no, I think he's going to do well in there. I think the leadership is great, and he's going to respect it.
I appreciate that. Mark, today obviously is the deadline. I think a lot of people assume the Ravens are going to be in the market for defensive help. I ask it twofold, right? Like if you could make I'm not even saying name, but just one area that you would address still if you were the Baltimore Ravens, where would you be in the argument between like edge rush or secondary if you were in Eric DeCosta's shoes?
If I'm in EDC's shoes, I'm going to go edge rush.
Okay.
I think, and I was thinking about, I was like, man, I don't feel like I don't know the stat, but where we are in terms of pressures this year versus last year.
Yeah, they're actually funny. It's funny, Mark. They're still among the leaders in sacks, but the time that quarterbacks have is almost historic. How much more time they're giving quarterbacks to make throws in the pocket than they were, particularly a year ago.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And, and that is like, an offense that, is top 5 or whatever in yards per game and on the bottom half of scoring. I mean,
right.
And so I think there's something to that, having somebody who, because later in the season, you're going to want to have a game closer. Not saying that our defense is, going to jump to the top, 10 in passing defense, but what we will be able to do is be in the game, late in the game, and need a play on defense, regardless of what happened in between. And I think, having a closer as an edge rusher as we get into the playoffs versus the great quarterbacks that we're going to go against will be paramount.
I agree wholeheartedly, man. And then I'll pose it this way. If they don't do anything of significance, and I'd be surprised if that were the case, I feel like it will be easy for people to say, well, now there's no way they can't win the Super Bowl like this. And I get it. I think their margin for error will be more difficult, but it's still the same team that's won 6 out of their last 7 and came a toe away from beating the Kansas City Chiefs in week 1. Like, I get that it's hard. I feel like that is going to be an extreme overreaction if they don't make a move of significance today.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. This team is good enough to get it done. I would say when I saw, the Zadarius Smith name go across the bottom of the screen, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, this team is definitely good enough to get it done. I don't doubt that at all. I think again, having somebody else would be a nice, value add. And these guys are figuring it out, and we still have the potential for somebody to step up and go to the next level when it comes to pass rush ability. And so I'm looking forward to seeing the growth over the last half of this season and see where we're at in January.
I'm crossing my fingers for Azeez Ojulari of the Giants. That's the guy that I'm like, please. But even a reunion with Jadeveon Clowney, I'd be good with that. I would take that.
Yep. Yes, sir.
What do people need to know about Live Audio, my brother?
Oh, man, we are releasing our headphones in the first quarter of 2025, and we're about to launch our pre-sale here coming up for the holiday, and look forward to getting everybody headphones early next year.
I love that, man. It's a Live Audio, 2 V's, liveaudio.com is how you can find out more. And, of course, you can follow him on Twitter at ClaytonMC9 as well. Mark, I need to do this more often, bro. Love you. Best to your family, man. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Likewise, brother. Appreciate you having me.
Thanks, dude. Mark Clayton. Truly, and I mean it when I say that, like one of the best humans I've ever known. Just I couldn't love that dude anymore, and appreciate him taking the time for us. And we continue to play the waiting game and the hoping game. The waiting, wishing. I've been waiting. I've been sitting, waiting, wishing. That whole thing that Jack Johnson said once upon a time. Just hoping that the next thing that comes across the crawl is related to the Baltimore Ravens, and we're all feeling good about it. But that's all we can do. Just play the waiting game and continue to try to do some other content in the meantime. Like, for example, when we come back in, we're going to set or tell you what you need to do for Waiver-Wire Wednesday. If you're a Dak Prescott owner, what are you doing? I don't know. I think Griffin's a Dak Prescott owner.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about it. He might be a Daniel Jones owner shortly.
In multiple leagues. Yeah.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Although, you know.
I got Jane Daniels in another one, though. So
Okay, you're good there. I'm at a very frustrated place. I know when I bring up Jared Goff with Joe Serpico, he's going to be like, no, you stick it out with Jared Goff. I am ready. I put a trade in front of Adam Pohl, our friend, former Bowie Bay Sox broadcaster. I put a trade in front of him. I'm prepared to ship Puka Nacua for Patrick Mahomes. And I know that sounds crazy, but I can't continue to wait on Jared Goff. I just can't do it. And he's got Jaden Daniels, so he's not going to be playing Patrick Mahomes. So I'm prepared to go crazy like that. We'll come back in. We'll preview Waiver Wire Wednesday with our guy Joe Serpico next. It is a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. Learn more at DriveEasyMD.com.
Pressbox's Project Game Day is the place to be after every game this season. Join Glenn Clark, Rita Hubbard, Super Bowl 35 champion Femi Ayanbadejo, and our cast of regulars as they break down what happened, why it mattered, and what it means moving forward. You can watch the show at PressBoxOnline.com/GameDay or Pressbox's Facebook and YouTube pages. Project Game Day is brought to you by the Green Turtle Sportsbook in Towson and Canton, Easy Pass, and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. So join us for Project Game Day after every game day this football season at PressBoxOnline.com/GameDay.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their amazingly scrumptious, fat, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. Every season is crab season at Costas, so make your plans now by calling 410-477-1975 and reserve your taste of heaven. Sit back, crack some crabs, and watch the Ravens chase down another title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday nights, Costas offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30, and there are nightly specials Monday through Friday. So head on down to the Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at CostasInn.com.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Brace yourselves for an unparalleled in-person betting experience at the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbook and Bars in Canton and Towson. Experience the thrill of live betting with Baltimore's only state-of-the-art Vegas viewing TV experience. Choose between our on-site tellers or the convenience of our self-bet kiosks to place your bets. Gather your betting buddies and head over to the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks today. Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton. The ultimate destination for game day excitement, great food, and live in-person betting. Must be 21. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Go to mdgamblinghelp.org.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
If you missed it yesterday, Stan the Fan Charles, Ross Grimsley, Luke Jackson got together one more time for the wrap-up of baseball season and tried to make sense of the Orioles not exercising the club option for Danny Coulombe. I don't get it. I don't understand. but you can listen to them attempt to make sense of it. CNL Perez did have his option picked up. Ryan O'Hearn did have his option picked up. Of course, Eloy Jimenez did not have his option picked up, but nobody thought that was in play. Nobody was sitting around waiting for that answer like, oh, I wonder if they're going to pick up Eloy Jimenez. No, we knew that was going to be the case. That was obvious. But, yeah, really surprising. Oh, I didn't think I mentioned. They did pick up Sir Anthony Dominguez's option, which isn't surprising. But stunned by the decision to decline Danny Coulombe's option. No idea at all what to make of that. But Stan Ross and Luke got together, and they discussed it. Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline, or PressBoxOnline.com/video is where you can check that out. It's all brought to you by the Costas Inn. It's tomorrow is Waiver-Wire Wednesday, and every Tuesday we preview Waiver-Wire Wednesday. Joining us now, PressBox Fantasy Football Analyst Joe Serpico with us here on GCR. Joe, what's going on, man? How are you?
Hey, guys. Heard today was an important day. I guess everybody's excited about the 4 p.m. trade deadline.
That's exactly right. That's the one. That's what we're all waiting for. And speaking of which, activity starting this morning, let's talk about it. The Khalil Herbert move to the Cincinnati Bengals. Does that make him someone you should be scrambling to pick up this week, or do you believe that's Chase Brown's job and you only pick him up if you're a Brown owner?
Yeah, I think that's more of because we found out yesterday that Zach Moss is going to be out indefinitely. And Herbert was somebody that I was considering stashing because, honestly, I was kind of hoping he was going to the Cowboys to kind of give me an option there. But, no, he's just a guy that is now going to be the handcuff to Chase Brown, but I think it's Chase Brown's job. We all kind of knew heading into the season that maybe the first 6 weeks it would be kind of a split between Brown and Moss, but by the season's end that Brown would kind of take over the backfield, and that's kind of been the case here.
It's funny because I still feel like it's worth just to, I kind of want to see it, right? You know what I mean? They did trade for the guy. I just sort of want to see it in action and have him on my roster until I have the answer. Is that crazy?
Wait, you say you do want to see it or you don't want to see it?
I want to hold him if I can. I'm not putting in fab money. But I kind of want to hold him just to let it unfold, right, and get the answer of what that backfield looks like. I just feel like that I'm that guy. I want to have – this was Clyde Edwards-Helaire a couple of weeks ago, right? Like I held him right up until I saw him return and realized, nope, he's not the guy. I can let him go then. I'm always the guy that wants to hold someone until I know exactly what this is going to look like.
I mean, I get that thinking, but at the same time, you could say that about just about every handcuff that's out there right now as well. And that's what I'm thinking he's going to be the rest of the way. He barely played in Chicago because once they brought in Swift, and then it looked like Roschon Johnson became the number 2 there. And again, he's always performed well. I will say that, when he's given the opportunities, he's played well. Again, that's why I was kind of hoping he went to the Cowboys because I just felt like it was just more ample opportunity for him there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, even in what you're saying here, maybe he's splitting carries with Brown, but I don't think, you just traded over to the Bengals now and all of a sudden becomes a starter, especially this week on a short week. I mean, we might not even see him in action this week.
No doubt. All right, let's go to the Cowboys because you bring them up. Obviously, we begin. If you're a Dak Prescott owner, what are you doing to find some help now?
Well, the guy that I threw out there for this week, and that's because he's had 2 back-to-back solid games, and that's Trevor Lawrence. He's been QB6 and QB7 the past 2 weeks, and then the caveat to that is he's got the Vikings coming up next, and their vaunted defense, and then after that, it's the Lions. In regards to Dak Prescott, I think it's a major blow to anybody who has, let's say, CeeDee Lamb. I don't know how serious it's going to be. I think it might be more than the initial 4 weeks they were talking about. The way they were kind of talking about it. So if you are a CeeDee Lamb owner, I'm potentially shopping him to see if we can get something out of that just because I don't have faith in Cooper Rush.
Well, I feel like there's a second layer to it when you bring up that could it be longer than that? Like what they're not in it right now. Like they're not
exactly.
What if this continues, if they're bad, why would they want Dak Prescott to be playing late in the season when they're a bad football team?
Especially after it was just a couple months ago, they gave him that nice little the pay raise too. So yeah, I can understand that philosophy as well. And yeah, you're right. I mean, at this point with how the Eagles and the Commanders are kind of running away with the East there. There's really no shot for the Cowboys to even sneak into the playoff spot with how the NFC has been. So, no, that whole situation in Dallas, I'm trying to avoid at all costs if I'm you. The only player maybe I might keep around is, Lamb for the obvious reasons, but again, I'll be shopping him. I do think this does a slight value up for Jake Ferguson, just because we always know how backup quarterbacks seem to favor their tight ends. And let's face it, Ferguson was already somebody getting a lot of targets. I think this just helps him out a little bit more.
I assume there's no value for Jonathan Mingo now as a Dallas Cowboy.
No, just because I don't think he usurps Jalen Tolbert on the roster, and I think we are maybe another week away from Brandon Cooks potentially coming back too. So I think Mingo is just a depth piece for potentially next year once Cooks is out the door and he slides in to be that number 3.
Anybody else ahead of the deadline that you are monitoring, like, hey, if this player gets moved, it could of the names that we think that are out there that could dramatically have fantasy impact?
Well, you're going to have to make me think about that because, most of the receivers, like the big one that was out there was Cooper Kupp. It doesn't seem like that's going to be a thing now. Diontae Johnson, we saw that. Some of the other
Adam
ones that
Thielen's name seems like it's still out there.
That was one that he's banged up. So, who's going to trade for a guy like that right now? And then if you're Carolina, you need somebody there to catch the ball. I know I listed Xavier Legette this week, but let's face it, Adam Thielen's a more proven commodity. Now, don't get me wrong. There could be a team out there, that wants a third wide receiver. Maybe they do take a flyer on Adam Thielen. With his injury situation, I just can't see that happening.
He is Joe Serpico, Pressbox Fantasy Football Analyst. He's with us here on GCR. Joe, I'm dealing with some frustration. I know you're a number 1 Jared Goff guy. I understand that. But I feel like I'm at the point where I might just have to start Tua over him. It's too inconsistent for me at this point.
That's the infuriating thing about Goff right now. Because not like he's doing anything wrong. It's just that they're just kicking the crap out of teams so bad that he's got no reason to throw touchdown passes anymore. They just seem to just let's feed. The defense has been doing their part, and then the 2 running backs seem to be vultures at the goal line. Even the past 2 weeks, the touchdowns we've gotten have been really short ones. But then you got to think back a couple weeks ago when he had those games where he was basically flawless and scored for 3 touchdowns. So that's kind of the ebbs and flows with fantasy. Now, yeah, you mentioned Tua. Definitely, we've talked about a huge boost to the Dolphins with him coming back to the lineup. And I do like the Dolphins this week against the Rams on the road. But I understand your sentiment there. I trust Goff and his offense a little bit more than I do the Dolphins' offense, but I can see why you're frustrated considering how they're just beating up on teams so bad that Goff doesn't even have to pass the ball. Be honest, that's kind of like the Chiefs have been doing, really, if you think about it with Mahomes.
Okay, I hear you, but Mahomes has still been kind of productive, right? And obviously was very productive last night. I was looking at my league in one of my golf leagues. The guy that has Mahomes also has Jaden Daniels, so he'll never be starting Mahomes. He is in wide receiver hell. I have right now Terry McLaurin and Puka Nacua, and then I also have on the IR Mike Evans and Adam Thielen. Is it crazy for me to try to use my wide receivers? And it would probably have to be Nacua, right? I don't think, because he's out of it right now, I don't think he would take one of the injured guys. Is it crazy for me to try to dangle one of those guys out there to get Patrick Mahomes?
Oh, absolutely not. I think Puka might be a little bit of an oversell on your part.
I agree.
I would try to go maybe the McLaurin route, but then it all depends on who's in your league, because you always have those people.
So you'd rather have Puka
as savvy as us.
You'd rather have Puka than McLaurin, because I think he'd love McLaurin because it would pair him with Jaden Daniels.
I can understand that. That does make sense. I can see that too. You get to stack there. If you ask me, though, we've seen McLaurin for 5-6 years now. He's steady Eddie, don't get me wrong, but he's not the guy that's going to give you that boom game, as opposed to Nacua we've seen now for almost a year and a half. When he's on the field, he puts up monster numbers.
All right. I'm going to think about it. Griffin, what do you got?
I am in quarterback. I don't want to say hell, because the rest of my league looks or the rest of my team looks pretty good. But I'm gonna have to be starting. I think I'm starting Daniel Jones this week. Is there any reason you would start Aaron Rodgers over him, or Let's see. Darnold's out there. He plays the Jags this week. And then there's also
That's the one.
Tua's available in another league as well. I'm gonna have to start. I'm considering Daniel Jones in 2 leagues, Joe.
Well, you mentioned Darnold going against the Jaguars. I think that's the one that I'm going after. The Jaguars are just dreadful this year. Even last week, they made that game close with the Eagles, but that was only because of that fumble that was not a fumble by Saquon Barkley. So yeah, Darnold. I mean, I've been uber impressed with Darnold this year. I think we talked about him a couple weeks back, but I at the time I was like, maybe it's a 3-4 week kind of thing. This guy's for real. Is one of the next guy of the Jets guys that kind of turned out well once he moved on. So yeah, if it's any of those that you mentioned, Darnold definitely over Daniel Jones, probably even Rodgers over Daniel Jones too. If I have to say, I'm maybe a little bit biased as an Eagles fan, but I think Daniel Jones is god awful. I mean, you'll get a game where he might get you 20 points one game, but the next way he'll get you -1.
Yeah, there's that.
What about Tua? Would you play Tua over Daniel Jones as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I just like the matchup they have this week, and I just think Tua is a better quarterback and got better things around him.
Are you better off if you're a Kyle Pitts owner picking up Taysom Hill or like even Jonnu Smith at this point and playing them over Kyle Pitts?
Man, tight end this year, right? So just a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about how Kyle Pitts is finally back in all of our good graces. And here we are again.
No, I remember.
Back to this stage.
I remember.
Remind me, who was the 2 names you asked me about?
The 2 guys that are out there are the 2 guys that are out there would be Taysom Hill and Jonnu Smith.
Jonnu Smith he's been hard to figure out for me this year, just because when he stepped up, it's been when Tua's been out of the lineup, and now it seems like they're trying to get him still kind of featured a little bit now that Tua is back. But I think we're seeing more balls go to Tyreek and Jalen Waddle with Tua there. In regards to Taysom Hill, I mean, I think I've been talking about him for 3 years now about how I feel about him. He's very similar to what we just talked about with Daniel Jones. He's very major boom or bust, but the difference being we need that boom at a tight end position. And with how banged up the receivers are for the Saints right now, they're out. No Olave, no Bud Means, no Rashid Shaheed, and then I think Cedric Wilson got banged up over the weekend too. So Taysom Hill is going to be featured somehow in that offense, especially in the goal line. So if I need somebody, let's say for this week, Taysom Hill, again, he's one of my guys that I always try to make him like my last pick, my last guy on the roster, because you're going to find those weeks where he's going to put up 20 points because he's going to get you that rushing touchdown. And then, and it's always fun when you sneaks in that passing touchdown for you too.
All right, at Joe Serp is where you follow him. PressBoxOnline.com is where you see his stuff, including his other thoughts on potential pickups this week. Joe, appreciate you, buddy. We'll talk to you again next Tuesday.
Absolutely, guys. Good luck this week.
Thanks, pal. That's Joe Serpico, PressBox fantasy football analyst. Appreciate him taking the time for us. As always, the Kyle Pitts thing is so infuriating. I get so frustrated trying to deal with Kyle Pitts. Hey, Joe is always brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel. Griffin, can you tell everybody really quickly?
Every time you're over at Live Casino during home games for Baltimore and Washington this season and a touchdown is scored, you get $7 in free slot play. Live Rewards members who have their Live Rewards card inserted correctly into the slot machine, any slot machine, and are actively playing, once those touchdowns are scored, you get your prize, $7 in free slot play. Adirondack Mills must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, hour number 1 of today's show in the books. Not seeing anything else. Continue to monitor. Continue to try to check in. What's going on? Not seeing anything yet at the moment. We'll continue to watch to see if there are other trades that unfold, things that you need to be aware of. But, of course, the big news this morning is Darius Smith of the Lions, Khalil Herbert of the Bengals, Jonathan Mingo moved to the Dallas Cowboys. And now we continue to play the waiting game. The Ravens, of course, are practicing because they have the Thursday night game this week. Of all the weeks, it's probably the worst possible week to have a Thursday night game because if you make a move, you don't have much time to try to assimilate that player into the plan for a Thursday night game. Still, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and make the move anyway. All right, let's switch gears this morning. College basketball season got underway officially last night. Maryland women were in Catonsville taking on UMBC and open up the season with a victory. They have a huge game coming up. First, they got to get through Coppin State on Thursday night, and then there's a showdown with Duke Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock. Joining us now to talk about that, she is, of course, the head coach of the Terps. She's Coach Brenda Frese, and she's back with us now here on GCR. Coach, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's always great to chat with you. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Coach, before we get into, the team and what's ahead, we mentioned starting the season last night at UMBC, and you and I have talked about this before. I have always appreciated how committed you have been to bringing the team to play games in the Baltimore area. You played at Coppin, you played at Loyola and Towson, and why does it matter so much to you and to the program to make sure that you're coming up here to play games seemingly every season?
Yeah, we love these in-state rivalries, being able to go on the road and within this region, there's so many great teams, especially when we can get those in play in non-conference. I think it's great for our fans. They can travel in a different direction, and it introduces your team to maybe some new fans that are laying their eyes on us for the first time.
I think it's incredible. I think it's a really good thing to do, and obviously it can't hurt when you're trying to get like Baltimore kids to come to the University of Maryland to know, hey, we're going to be coming playing games in your backyard.
No question, and we've definitely have had success over the years with that. So, I thought it was neat last night. A young, 3 young kids and a family came up to me after and, had UMBC shirts on, but got to see our team and our program for the first time. So it's just awesome to be able to have our players be role models for these kids.
I think it's awesome. I wanted to ask you about one of those Baltimore kids, and I know she wasn't a big part of the story last night, but Mir McLean was someone that was, like highly touted, phenom coming out of high school, and of course ended up at UConn. Her path to now this point, and how she ended up back home at Maryland. Can you tell me? I want to talk to you about, because obviously this year more than maybe any other, the roster is so crazy different. But that path is so unique to me, and how that worked out, and what you think she can do for this team at this point and everything she's experienced.
Yeah, I mean, her journey has been anything but easy. I love the fact that it's kind of been a full circle moment from way back when to, now having that moment to be able to put on that Maryland jersey. And, she's had a lot of injuries in her career. She's battled. I love Mir. She's so competitive, so intelligent, and now, finally healthy. So I expect, we have 2 years left with Mir that some big things are going to come into play. She's been kind of out of it for about a year and a half with the injuries. Yeah. So just to see her out there rebounding and moving and playing with such joy, and, it's only going to get better as she continues to get stronger and stronger out of this.
Brenda, it's not as if you've never used the transfer portal before, right? Like, we know that even before the NIL era, you had gone that route and had been very involved. But this year it feels like even more so. Can you kind of take me through what it was like building this roster this year? And I know you did have some really important parts that were holdovers, but, it felt like you really almost had to kind of completely rebuild the roster this season.
Yeah, we've had to adapt. Times have changed, and, you're able to get a lot more experience now out of the transfer portal. Like you said, the portal has, been very, very good to us even in the past. And we were really able to address a lot of the needs that we felt some areas of weaknesses last year. Rebounding was one of them. We were plus 30 on the glass last night. The ability to get an ultimate true point guard to be able to move Cheyenne Sellers back to her natural position. We were able to do that in Sarah Tibiasu. So the fact that we were very intentional, we were able to bring Taylor Poffenberger back home, someone I had given her first scholarship offer to way back when. So some really neat stories of how we were able to build this team out of the portal.
What does it take when you have a team with this many new parts? How do you assimilate it all quickly? Like we reference, it's Duke on Sunday. And I hope that you don't think that I am just trying to talk past Coppin State, because I know that's how it works, and you all have to prepare for the next game. But when we talk about that, like you don't have a whole lot of time to ramp up and keep that process going. How do you get so many new pieces clicking together so quickly? Did you have to adjust anything that you did leading into the season that maybe was a bit different than past years?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, it takes patience. I think you have to understand it's a marathon, not a sprint. And, we want to play these games like the Duke games and the Syracuse game that we're playing after Duke to prepare us for conference play, which will get us ready for March. So you don't want to get too high or low out of it. It starts sooner, I would say, with your roster, where when you bring them in the summer, you're a lot more intentional on that team building, your practices, your chemistry. We were fortunate with this roster to be able to go overseas this past summer and do an international foreign tour. So we went to Croatia. We got 10 extra practices early on to, play games. So, some things that were really built out ahead.
She is Brenda Frese, of course, head coach of the Maryland women. She's with us here on GCR. Coach, because it's Duke Sunday, I have been to sold-out Maryland Duke games over the years, and, we know it's not been quite the same with the move to the Big Ten, but still, this is, the team that you faced in the greatest moment in Maryland basketball history, right? Like, this is the team that you faced in one of the greatest games ever played. How much does it mean? Why is it important for you to have a game like this on the schedule?
Well, I know our fans that remember those ACC days are ecstatic, and they're going to be the ones that want to come out and watch this game. For our kids, I've got to give them a history lesson. A lot of them were really young. Last time we played them was in 2015 when we beat them. So, but I do think anyone who knows the Maryland-Duke rivalry, it's a fun one that we're able to now put on the schedule. We'll have a home and home with them, and we're just hoping that, a lot of fans will come out here early and see this really special team. It's a red out on Sunday at 1 o'clock, and we want to get as many fans, but we have some of the best fans in the country to come out and support us in this game.
Just a reminder, the Ravens play on Thursday, so you guys don't have anything to do on Sunday. Like, this is the time to get
even
down.
Better.
Yeah, it works out perfectly to get down and check it out. I mean, when you say that you got to teach them a history lesson, you're not going to go have them all watch the championship game from 06 this week, are you? You're not going to maybe pull that out.
Unfortunately, they get that story and they see the banner.
That's
every
true.
single
The
day.
trophy's
So,
sitting there in the lobby. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So they definitely know the history of that game.
Coach, I want to go back because you brought up Shai Sellers a second ago, and she was one of my favorite players to watch last year, and just her toughness and kind of her tenacity. And when I think of leaders, I feel like she fits that bill with so many new players. How important is her role in sort of that transition to what your roster is this season?
Yeah, it's been invaluable. I can't say enough about Cheyenne. Someone who has stayed loyal, has been here, all 4 years. She was really instrumental in helping us attract a lot of these players that we were able to secure on our roster out of the portal. And she's continued to lead every single day. I'm really proud of the fact that she's just continued to grow and mature and get better, and extremely unselfish. She understands that, her numbers, minute-wise, stat-wise, need to go down a little bit for us this year in order for us to be successful. And all she wants to do is win. So, it speaks volumes of her as a leader.
What we saw last night and balance, and I get that was, more of a blowout game as it turns out, but do you feel like that's more of what this team is going to be? Is there's not going to necessarily be an alpha per se, but more a group of players who are all kind of steadily, around double figures?
I hope so. Those have always been our most successful teams. Mm-hmm. When you talk about how far they're going to advance in postseason and any given night, I think our roster is really intentionally built where one night might be with the ball going inside, and the next night, being able to shoot from distance from the 3-point line. So we have so many capable scorers. We're really deep. We're really talented. And as long as we can continue to stay unselfish, great things will be in store for this team.
I wanted you know we've talked about local connections and fun stories earlier, but Ava McKinney is another one that I wanted to bring out because we got to know Ellis obviously when he was playing football at Maryland, and I know she was at McDonough, but like how cool this story is that it works out that she ends up playing for you, and what I know she got some minutes last night, what her role might be early on in her career.
Yeah, what a great story. And, you know, they bleed Maryland through and through.
Yeah.
I know what it meant when she was able to get that Maryland offer. And then when she accepted it, Ellis had a great career at Maryland. I thought a cool moment last night was being able to see Ava's coaches, head coach Brad Reese and his assistant come to the game and support her. So great things are in store for Ava. Huge upside, very, very athletic. Learning her way. She's a freshman. It's the first time coming through this in the college ranks with a lot of talent and veteran leadership ahead of her. But I love her attitude. She just comes in every single day and works. And probably the neatest element, her ability to lead already so early as a freshman bodes well for us in our program. She's just got the natural characteristics to be a phenomenal leader.
I feel like I need to ask you about Alyssa and winning the gold medal and what that means to you, to your program, and look, you obviously have had great players, right? Like that's not a, but that is how much that means for Maryland basketball, for everybody to see her and the star that she's become, and how much that means to your program.
Yeah, been in coaching a long time, my 23rd year here at Maryland, and truly a surreal, proud moment to watch your first player be an Olympian.
Yeah.
And at Maryland, and truly deserves it as a one of a kind when you talk about everything she accomplished here and now at the next level. Nobody worked harder. Phenomenal competitor, but what a way to represent our university, our program, and she's always done that to the highest level.
And look, a cool story with her and Bree together, obviously in Connecticut, and who knows who might be next as far as Maryland players in the Olympics, but an amazing, amazing moment for sure. Coach, I'll wrap with this. It's funny to say that a team, like you're still the number 18 team in the country. So if I said like underdog or disrespect, somebody would say, okay, come on. But, this is Maryland basketball that we're talking about, right? Like y'all are used to over the years, perennially being in the top 10. Is there something to be said for maybe there's an advantage for a team that might be flying under the radar a little bit, and perhaps the expectations aren't as crazy as they are for some years, that like there might be a benefit in some way to that as the season gets underway?
Yeah, I always embrace the rankings, the pressure, but for this group, I think it's probably fair with where it's at. I think it's it allows us to grow. Like I said, when you're putting a lot of pieces of almost 10 new pieces together, that's going to take time. We don't have the roster that has put all these, games under their belt together. But they're talented. So I wouldn't sleep on us. I definitely think we've built this schedule intentionally. It will just continue to keep preparing us for how hard the Big Ten is going to be. When you look at those teams that are in it, it's definitely going to prepare us for conference play.
All right, Thursday night at home against Coppin State at 6 o'clock, and make sure you make your plans now. And I would encourage you to get your tickets because these are likely to be hot commodities come Sunday. So get them now for the Duke game Sunday afternoon, 1 o'clock at Xfinity Center. It's on national TV, but there's nothing like the atmosphere. It's Maryland Duke that we're talking about. We shouldn't have to sell this. I feel like those words should be enough to make sure that you're there. Brenda Frese, always appreciate it. Can't wait to be catching up as the season goes on. Looking forward to seeing you out there Sunday. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
Yeah, thank you so much. Go Terps. See you Sunday.
It's Brenda Frese, Maryland basketball coach. And, I don't like the Mira McLean. That one is one of the more fascinating ones to me because, we remember, like, she was really a phenomenon like signed at Duke and started there, and the injuries. So it'll be interesting to see as the season goes on, as she gets healthier, like how much she can bring. I think that could be a fascinating story for Maryland this season. All right, in hour number 2 of a Tuesday edition of the program, 1 week from tonight, the Arthur Millette Show returns. We will be at Mother's North Grill in Timonium. Not tonight, next Tuesday night, the 12th. Come hang with us for the next Arthur Millette Show at Mother's North in Timonium. It is all brought to you by our friends at Easy Pass, as well as helpmygamblingproblem.org. You can find out more by going to pressboxonline.com/Millette. But no excuses. See you 1 week from tonight. And then we'll do another show the following Tuesday. We're going to do back-to-back, which we don't do a lot, but with the short week this week and, you know, there's something else apparently going on tonight that people are interested in. I don't know. So we just decided it was probably going to be best to move the show back. So next Tuesday night, the 12th, we will see you at Mother's North Grill in Timonium for the next Arthur Millette Show. Can't wait to see you there. When we come back in, we'll continue a little college hoops conversation. Season did get underway last night. Patrick Stevens will be joining us every Tuesday throughout the season to get us caught up on what we need to know. And we'll talk a little bit about the national landscape because we didn't get to do that during the preview show last week. So some of the big national storylines we'll cover as well. That's next. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their amazingly scrumptious, fat, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. Every season is crab season at Costas, so make your plans now by calling 410-477-1975 and reserve your taste of heaven. Sit back, crack some crabs, and watch the Ravens chase down another title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday nights, Costas offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30, and there are nightly specials Monday through Friday. So head on down to the Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at costasinn.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4, available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin, and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Brooks Dubose profiles Maryland basketball forwards Derek Queen and Julian Reese as the Baltimore-built duo reunites in College Park with hopes of bringing the Terps back to prominence. Also inside, meet college basketball players from all of the area's D1 programs. Press Box is available for free at over 500 locations throughout the region, including 60 Royal Farm stores, where you can read the entire issue online at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can also find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps.
Need a trophy or award that's as unique as the achievement? Look no further than Crown Trophy. With locations in Owings Mills and Gaithersburg, they specialize in custom trophies, plaques, and medals for any occasion. From sports and academic awards to employee recognition and corporate gifts, visit crowntrophy.com today and let them help you create a lasting memory for your school, team, or business. Crown Trophy is a proud supporter of the Maryland Public Secondary Schools Athletic Association. crowntrophy.com.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
Coming up Thursday night, the return of Project Game Day immediately following Baltimore-Cincinnati. Make sure you're hanging out with us, PressBoxOnline.com/gameday. Myself, Rita, Femi, Ken, Stecca, the whole crew. We had Josh with us. Josh Charles was with us for this past one. Griffin will be there. Late night with us. What are you going to do, watch the Fallon show? I mean, do you hate yourself? Hang out with us.
If he's got the Rizzler and
That's a great point. Yeah,
Big
the
Justice
Costco
and AJ.
guys or whatever they are. Yeah, how do you miss? I tell you what, we'll bring the boom on Thursday night for Project Game Day. We'll handle that for you. So come hang out with us. Brought to you by BetYard AI, the Green Turtle, Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton, Easy Pass, and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. We'll see you Thursday night for Project Game Day. College basketball season got underway last night. It was the Derek Queen show in College Park. Towson, great battle, but came up a bit short out at St. Mary's. Let's talk about everything that occurred. We'll be doing this every Tuesday throughout the course of the season with our buddy Patrick Stevens, who you follow at Discourse, D1S Course, Washington Post, Blue Ribbon, USA Lacrosse Magazine, amongst others. What's going on, brother? How are you?
A little tired after staying up a little late to watch some of that Gonzaga-Baylor game. I think the best choice that I made yesterday and into today was going to bed at halftime of that.
Yeah.
It only got worse.
You know, it's one of those things, right, where every year we know Gonzaga is good, right? Like, we know. And then, like, you actually watch them and you're like, oh, holy crap.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
They're pretty good.
It's unreal, isn't it? It's unreal. Yeah, Gonzaga blew out Baylor in the season opener, 101-63. Patrick, I know you were in College Park last night. We didn't spend a lot of time talking about Maryland on the preview show because we had all the coaches in from the local teams. I'm not trying to oversell it because it was against Manhattan, but clearly last night will do nothing to slow down the hype train for Derek Queen.
No, and I think on the one hand, you would sit there and say that Manhattan was a team that has been rebuilding and struggled last season and all that. But 20 rebounds is 20 rebounds no matter who you're doing it against. And so for Derek Queen to come out and have a double-double at halftime, that wasn't his 22 and 20 last night was not one of those things where it was just like 4 really awesome minutes and then just okay play the rest of the time.
Right.
He was aggressive on the offensive glass from the start, played really well. There's really no getting around it. And so, of course, the joke would be now go do it again, right? It's only the first time since Joe Smith that a Maryland guy had 20 rebounds in the game. So I think, if you're Maryland, you look at that as certainly promising for Derek Queen and also promising for the way that you shook off kind of a jittery start to the thing. You're only up 1 early in the second half, win by 30. I don't think that would have happened last season. You've also got things that you look at and you go, well, the 5 of 23 from 3 is one of those things that I think that if they hadn't had those problems last year from the outside, you would be willing to look past. But I think the one good thing for them is Rodney Rice came off the bench and hit a couple threes in 5 attempts. And frankly, that's kind of going to be the major role for him on this team is to be able to stretch the floor. So there's even in that 5 of 23, there's something good to take away from it for now.
Acknowledging I am not interested in paying money in order to watch games against mid-major opponents. That's not going to be something I'm going to do, so I did not get to watch any of the game. I did want to get as well your take on Jacoby Gillespie's performance in his debut because the numbers, 5 assists, no turnovers, 6 10 from the floor, the numbers make it look like it was a pretty solid effort.
Yeah, and he was very much in control. He is not Jameer Young. He is not going to take over games on a regular basis the way that Jameer did the last couple of years. But he is a guy that can run the team. And, I was talking to some folks who had seen them practice before the game. And, they were saying that in their estimation from the times that they had been through, that was probably their best player, Gillespie. And there was nothing to suggest that he's not going to be at minimum their best guard this season. So, I think that for them, that for Maryland, being able to get that kind of performance, a settled showing, is also very encouraging. So, I think the if we were to sit here and say who are the two most important newcomers going to be for this team, you probably would have chosen Queen and Gillespie, and those are the two guys that delivered the most last night.
Maryland, by the way, will be on TV on Friday night against Mount St. Mary's, for those of you that weren't able to watch last night. Patrick, I guess I'll put it this way. The first big game on the schedule is the Marquette game 1 week from Friday. For Maryland to be in a place where they're capable of competing with Marquette, what would you still want to see from them over the course of the next couple of games?
You'd probably want to see them, first off, make some outside shots.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing. Selton Miguel was a little banged up, had an ankle issue, and didn't play in the second half. And I think he's going to be somebody that's going to be pretty key for what they want to do long term. I don't know depth-wise if they're as comfortable as they otherwise would be if he's not being able to go out there and play 20, 25 minutes or so. So that's a question that I think probably needs to be answered. And I think they had 7 turnovers in the first half last night.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were a little bit sloppy. Maybe that is just sort of nerves or first night nerves. Could be. So, those are the things that stood out on that front. But, I don't think there's too much you can really quibble with. Big picture, really, besides the 3-point shooting. And even then you're quibbling with it just because of what an issue it was for them last year.
Correct. Patrick, I actually I watched the majority of the second half of the Towson-St. Mary's game last night, and offensively, Towson, to me, looked great. They weren't able to get the stops they needed to really have a chance of getting back into the game. They just kept hanging around, but were never really able to make a move to have a shot into it. But I don't think that this, halts the train at all. It feels like, if anything, it kind of backs up. This is exactly the type of team that we believe Towson is capable of being, and why they're a threat to win the CAA.
Yeah, that is not an easy place to have to go, St. Mary's. You can ask Gonzaga about the problems that they've had going in there over the years. A really, really strong program. And I mentioned to Pat Scarry later on last week after we talked on the preview show just about the thought of that's where you chose to start off, and there's only so many options there, and I think that for them, you expected their roughly 4 best players to be Tyler Tejada, Dylan Williamson, Christian May, and Nenda Tark, and those are 4 of their top 5 scorers last night, each of them with at least 8 points. I look at them; they had only 7 turnovers. And so, the big question of, all right, what's the Towson point guard situation like? I think if Dylan Williamson's rolling out there with 15 points, 3 assists, and 1 turnover in 28 minutes, you're going to take that every single time if you're Towson.
Yeah.
Tyler Tejada, maybe in a little bit more volume than you might have expected in terms of his shooting. But I think that even 8 of 20 against a good defensive program like St. Mary's, that's going to work, and that's not going to be the level of opponent that Towson's going to have to deal with on a night-in, night-out basis. So certainly nothing for Towson really to feel bad about with that result. Kind of, like you said, hanging around, not really letting St. Mary's get away from it too far, but also not quite being able to really have a realistic shot there, in the final, couple minutes or so. So not an embarrassing showing by any stretch of the imagination for Towson. Certainly no reason to be less bullish on them than you might have been a couple days ago.
I will tell you that the resident Towson fan in my life, Griffin, he convinced me to watch the Charleston-Southern Illinois game yesterday, and Pat Kelsey's departure doesn't make it look like Charleston's going to be any less of a problem this season. They look good, man. They got that is a program that has some pretty good resources, all things considered. No question.
And they went and they hired a coach in Chris Mack that even if things didn't work out at Louisville, he had certainly had a lot of success at Xavier. And I don't think anybody thought that, Charleston was suddenly going to vanish or anything. I don't know if anybody thought that they were going to be quite as good as they were the last 2 years, and one game isn't going to prove that one way or the other.
Right.
But certainly Charleston, a team that Towson is going to have to contend with, and frankly, I believe only plays them once in CAA play this year, right at the start of the conference schedule on January 4th.
Interesting.
So
that's interesting how that works out. All right, Patrick Stevens is with us here on GCR. Patrick, when we were doing the preview show, because we were so and look, none of the results significant last night, I think, otherwise for the local teams. So I wanted to talk about some of the other national storylines with you, if we could, because we didn't spend time on that last week. And it feels like a lot of that conversation tends to start with Cooper Flagg down at Duke.
Mm-hmm.
The reality, I think the question, the way that everybody is posing it is this the team for John Shire to finally get back to like what the level or the standard is for Duke basketball?
It's funny that you framed the question that way,
right.
and I just want to point this out. And I'm not picking on you because there's a lot of people that think like this. Finally, get back to the standard.
Finally is the wrong word. Yes, 100%. It's the wrong word.
It's only year 3, and he was in the Elite 8 last year.
Yes.
So I mean, it's not as if Duke has been bad. They were kind of limited 2 seasons ago, and they frankly didn't have as much size as you would have liked. I talked to Chris Carrawell over the summer for Blue Ribbon, and he was basically saying that they were not a team that was going to scare you walking around the airport, right?
Mm-hmm.
This team is deeper. They have Cooper Flagg as a guy at 6'9", that they're going to be able to play at the 3 a fair bit if they want to. He'll play at the 4 some. Concanoople off to a fine start. One of the other freshmen on that team. I think Caleb Foster, a sophomore, one of the handful of guys that's back, is going to have a really good year for them. They've got some veteran transfers and Sion James from Tulane, Malik Brown from Syracuse, Mason Gillis from Purdue. So they're deeper. When we think about what Duke has been as a program over the last, 15 years or so, it's usually like, okay, they've got 7, maybe 8 guys that they trust. And I think this is a team that can go deeper and can run a lot more and can create a lot of issues. So it's not simply just, oh my gosh, Cooper Flagg is the guy that's going to be picked number 1 overall. I think they have a lot of ways to create problems for people.
Bummer last night, as I think Robbie Avila was a player that would probably generate some attention for mid-major, for the A-10, but he gets hurt, and like that. I think it's bad news for everybody in college basketball, Patrick.
Yeah, and I didn't catch if there was a diagnosis or anything in there.
It just Jeff Goodman said that he was told it just doesn't look good, is the way that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's unfortunate, and obviously that's a player that became something of a folk hero last year against when he was with Indiana State. And I think it would also, like you mentioned, it would lower the ceiling for St. Louis, and it probably would hurt the A-10's chances of being able to, maybe be more than a 2 or possibly 3 bid league if St. Louis isn't at full strength as it deals with its non-conference slate. That said, not a lot of people were volunteering to line up and play St. Louis. And so when you look at its non-conference schedule, I mean, yesterday against Santa Clara was one of a handful of prominent games that they had, like Wichita State, San Francisco, Grand Canyon. Didn't get a high major on that schedule this year. In fact, maybe the most notable thing that they had is they were playing a school called Avila on Sunday, which was an NIL-related thing. So unfortunately, it sounds like that's going to be a little ruined there. But I obviously, any sort of personality that you can have in the sport is great.
No doubt.
Certainly wishing the best for Robbie Avila to get healthy as soon as possible.
I know that your response will probably be something like, "The season just started." But if I asked you for a team that maybe you're a bit more bullish about or interested in than like a good bit of the national landscape has been paying attention to, would you have one of those?
Well, a national landscape team of people, that's a good question. I don't know if there's anybody that really fits that bill. I'm just kind of scrolling through last night's results to sort of remind me.
Obviously UCF beating Texas A&M stood out a little bit last night.
Yeah, UCF. I mean, that was obviously a score that stood out. North Florida beating South Carolina was something that stood out to me too.
Okay.
I thought that was a really good result for Matt Driscoll is the coach at North Florida, has been there a long time, is an interesting character. Very, very upbeat, and I imagine that he's on cloud 9 right now. I'll tell you a team that we've made so much fun of here, and we've mentioned this coach already in this conversation. But for Louisville to come out and just demolish Morehead State the way it did yesterday, 93-45, Louisville has been such a punchline.
Yep.
And they obviously are actually being run by a competent coach now. So, I think at the very least, there's something there's something to look at there that might be that might be pretty neat. So that's one of those things that stood out. I'm trying to think if there was anybody else that really like you mentioned, Central Florida as a team. I'm not sure there's too much else at this stage. The weird thing is that so much of this stuff is all concentrated in the power conferences now, for better or for worse, just because of the conference consolidation.
Right.
So it's a little hard to be one of those sneaky teams further down the board. One of the teams I would have mentioned to you, well, here's two: Princeton and McNeese State. And Princeton had some problems yesterday. They were able to rally to get past Iona, and McNeese lost to South Dakota State. But those are still two really good teams that I think are going to be capable of creating problems for people. But it didn't necessarily happen the way I might have guessed it would have last night.
Big games, by the way, coming up this weekend. Carolina, Kansas stands out. I think Auburn, Houston's this weekend as well, right?
Yes, that one's this weekend. There's actually, when you kind of look across the landscape, there are maybe more of those high-end games in non-conference play this year than what we've sort of gotten accustomed to. Yeah. And so, I think, when you're looking at this particular weekend, you've also got Wake Forest and Michigan in sort of a sneaky good game on Sunday down in Greensboro. Wake Forest might be one of those teams that kind of fits that description that we were talking about. I think they're going to be pretty decent with Hunter Salas kind of leading the way for them. So, but yeah, I would tell you that North Carolina, Kansas, and Auburn, Houston are the headliners on the weekend. The Carolina-Kansas game is Friday night at 7. Houston-Auburn is Saturday at 9:30.
Patrick, before we play the game, I'd be remiss. I have spent a lot of time this week talking about how much Pete Medhurst means to me, and what a friend he's been to me, and how good he's been to me in my career. But as someone that means a lot to a lot of people, would you want to share any thoughts about Pete and the role that he plays in local college sport?
Yeah, Pete is such a champion for so many things. Like Pete is a huge lacrosse guy.
Yep.
Pete is a huge officiating guy. Pete is a huge harness racing guy. He's obviously
softball.
Sort of the
softball. Pete loves softball.
Softball. He loves softball.
Yeah.
He obviously loves Navy sports.
Yep.
And so there's obviously and loves his family. Let's not forget about that.
No
and
question.
I'm certainly wishing them so much. Wishing them all the best right now as he deals with his situation. And so there's a lot of different places that he intersects locally. And obviously has a role with the Nats.
Yep.
Has a role with has a role on the Ravens stuff at the AL. So so many things that he has a hand in. It's amazing just how much of that sort of stuff that you find that he has a hand in one way or the other. So like I said, just wishing him all the best at this point as he continues to recover.
I finally had a chance to chat with his wife Brenda yesterday, and it has been encouraging news, and things are looking good, and we like that, but a long way to go, and I couldn't love that guy anymore, and at some point we're going to probably need to lift them up, and when we do, we'll talk to you about that as well. He is it's so funny. It's funny because you list all those things, and then ask Scott Strassmeyer at Navy, and he'll say he thinks Pete's best sport is volleyball, right? It's wild, man. All right, let's play the game. Patrick Stevens, I'm running low. So the manager, I don't know if you remember if we go back months, I couldn't, there are no more 4-team managers, but we did the bit where we were combining teams that someone played for and managed to see how you do. And I admit these are ball busters, but I feel like this is one that you might be able to have some luck with. As a player, he played for 5 teams. He's managed 2 teams that he didn't play for, so 7 total teams.
Okay.
Ron Washington is the first name on the list.
Ron Washington. Okay, well, let's get the 2 managerial
Yes,
teams
of course.
Okay, he managed the Rangers and has managed the Angels.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Ron
player
Washington
is tough, man. I remember 2 of these.
Well, he was definitely in Cleveland.
He most certainly was.
He was definitely a Twin.
That was one of the 2 that I remembered.
He was an Oriole.
That was the other one that I remembered.
At the very end, he was a Houston Astro.
Wow, I had no recollection of that.
Now, the other spot
this one
is
it's a ball buster. It's where he started his career in 77, and I don't know how many games he played. I'm going to look it up because he didn't come back to baseball until 81. So I don't think it went well.
I truthfully do not remember where exactly he came up, but
10 games in 1977.
How many games?
10 games.
10 games. Oakland.
Oh man, you should have gone with your gut.
Oh, was he a Dodger?
He was a Dodger.
Oh wow! All right.
All right. That's the way it goes. All right. I got 2 players, both of which are very modern. I think this one is the harder of the 2. But we'll go with 5 teams for Adam Frazier. 5 teams for Adam Frazier.
Adam Frazier.
An all-star in 2021, which I did not know that he would have qualified for our list.
An all-star in 2021. Okay, well, all right. So we're talking about Pittsburgh, right?
Yep, of course.
We're talking about Baltimore.
Obviously.
We're talking about Kansas City this year,
That's
right?
where he was this year. That is correct.
Okay. I'm already 3 for 3. So
this can't be that bad, right? Yeah. At this point, it's 100%.
This is a win at this point.
Yep.
Was he a White Sox?
Not a White Sox. I think that's probably Todd Frazier. Yeah.
Todd Frazier.
Yeah,
there,
was
right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then was, I was going to go with another Todd Frazier team, so I probably shouldn't do that. Adam Frazier, any chance he was a Padre?
That's exactly right. He was a Padre in 2021. They acquired him at the deadline. I did not remember that one. I did remember the other one. It was where he was before Baltimore, and that's the only reason I know it. In 2022, he was a Seattle Mariner for Adam Frazier. And then 4 teams, another a current player, Marcus Semien is the final one for today.
I'll probably get 3 of them. He's Oakland, Toronto, and Texas, right?
Yes, he was. I knew where it was. I didn't realize it was 2 seasons before Oakland. 2 seasons, 2013 and 2014.
2013 and 14 before Oakland. I don't know. How about Colorado?
Oh, you should have gone with the Todd Frazier guess. It was the Chicago White Sox was the other stop for Semien. What's the schedule look like for you this week, sir?
I'll be over at Georgetown for its opener tomorrow against Lehigh. Back to College Park Friday when they get Mount St. Mary's. To Georgetown again on Saturday. They have Fairfield. American has Harvard on Sunday, and then Maryland and Florida A&M on Monday. And by the way, a plug for the Veterans Classic.
Yes.
On Friday. Work is taking me to College Park, but the doubleheader, VCU and Boston College plus Navy and Harvard on Friday night in Annapolis. Always a good time and always a well-done event down at the Naval Academy. So that's something that if you haven't been there, it's certainly worth going at least once.
At Discourse, D1S Course, that's how you follow him. Patrick Stevens, appreciate you, sir. We will talk to you again next Tuesday.
Thanks so much for having me, as always.
Patrick Stevens with us here on GCR, talking college hoops as the season got underway last night. Yeah, Griffin was obsessed with watching Charleston, Southern Illinois. What was the kid's name from Charleston that we?
Berzovich.
Berzovich. Yeah, he's a problem.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Son of a bitch. You wanted to believe that, like, hey, Pat Kelsey's gone. But yeah, I mean, Chris Mack, obviously, it's the hell of a coach. There's no question about it, even if it didn't go well at Louisville. Although it got, by the way, in comparison to how it went for the next guy at Louisville, salad days under Chris Mack at Louisville. Yikes. They're going to be as much of a problem as they have always been for Towson in the CAA. Still nothing new, nothing that I see bubbling trade-wise as we continue to, like, this is one of those days.
They're waiting until we
get off the air, 100%. The moment we go off the air, that's when it'll happen.
How it goes.
Or it'll happen like, what really I feel like has happened is it happened like as we're doing, and we just don't notice it. And we find out 5 minutes later. Son of a bitch. Damn it. All right, let's do 5 plays. 5 plays brought to you this week by County Sports Zone. CountySports.zone is the website for everything you need to know about high school sports. We are getting very close to playoff season in fall sports. And you can track every game, every bracket, everything you need to know. CountySports.zone, proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. Much more difficult week for 5 plays. Much tougher week than when we brought it back last week. Remember, they're the 5 plays that told the story of the Ravens' victory.
So Pat Ricard's touchdown?
No.
Number 1.
No. That would be a bad choice.
Told the story.
Yeah, that would be a bad choice. That would not be good. I struggled with this. Really, really struggled. And in fact, moved a few things around.
Yeah,
and
I'm
like,
my mind.
I don't think that my list is even the right list, if I'm being totally honest with you. But I
think I got mine right.
You think yours is the right list?
Right.
Okay.
I think I got top 3 right.
There were other plays that I was like excited to include. I'm like, we should include this. And then I said, okay, I'll give you one that ended up getting left on the cutting room floor, right? And it's going to be something that I've talked about before, and it probably made your list if I know you. One thing that I have always said is if a penalty nullifies something that occurred on the play cannot be judged by what would have happened had there been no penalty, because you assume that only happened because of the penalty. So I do think there's an argument for the would have been touchdown for the Broncos.
So that with a minute left in
the first half.
Okay.
But not because of the touchdown aspect of it. Because again, in the way that I look at it, the touchdown never happened. It only happened because there was a penalty. I'm not the call. It's not the 5 calls that told the story. It's the play. The argument for that play, and if it's on your list, I'll make the argument for you because I considered it.
Yeah.
The argument is that 10 yards backed them up to a place where it made it essentially impossible for them to score a touchdown on that drive. It didn't cost them 4 points because we don't know that they would have converted, 3rd and 7 from the 9, but it kind of all but cost them. And even if they didn't get 7 points, the value of converting the first down and even just getting to the 2 and then running more time off the clock to kick the field goal, remember the Ravens went and scored 7 points the other way. So, I can make an argument for that play, but it's not because a touchdown came off the board, because the touchdown never happened with the penalty. But it didn't end up making my list, ultimately. It was a tough one to leave off because I do think, again, backing them up to 3rd and 17 from the 19 was significant, but not quite as significant as some of the other plays that I ended up. They did score 3 points there. Like it doesn't register the same way as some of the other plays I ultimately chose. But man, tough list, right?
So that it is. I guess we'll get to it when it
okay.
is on my
All
list.
Right. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. Totally fine. We'll get to it. My number 5. My number 5, go to 8:15 remaining in the third quarter. 3rd and 2. Yes, the Ravens are up by 3 scores. I understand that. And it's hard to think that anything that happened in the second half is particularly significant.
I did not have anything in the second half on mine.
I get it. But I have watched the Ravens defense enough, and this season has gone the way that it's gone, to know the game wasn't over at 21. And with it being just a 3rd and 2 and an extraordinarily manageable play, the likelihood of them converting is high. Instead, Tavius Robinson sacks Bo Nix for a loss of 9 yards. They're now forced to punt, trailing by 3 scores. The Ravens would, of course, go on to score in the next possession as well, make it a 4-score game, and then definitively the game is over at that point. I get it. It's tough. I almost ignored the second half entirely, but I do think that was the last hurrah.
The last breath at the...
Yes, I think that was and only because the Ravens defense has been so bad in the second half that you can't say the game was over at 3 scores. Like, you have to acknowledge we've seen too much of this group to be able to say definitively the game was already over for sure at that point. That's why it's my number 5.
Okay. I went with, so this was the second drive, and it was the, I want to make sure it was the second. Yeah, it was definitely the second drive because they punted on their first drive. It was the 2nd and 12 with 5 minutes left, 5:12 left in the first quarter. When Lamar hit Aguilar for 30 yards.
Yeah, it was a big play. Yeah, I had no issue with it.
I'll make sure I play it real quick for everybody. But I mean, yeah, it was just a big play because it was a 2nd and long. This moved them, obviously just immediately into field goal range, getting across midfield, and it was a really well ran route by Aguilar because the safety from Denver bit up on it and it left Aguilar wide open, and obviously this was a pre-course for what Lamar was going to be all day, and that was it
was a big play.
He wasn't going to miss.
It was a big play. I got no beef with it. It didn't make my list. It wasn't even. I don't know, but it was a play that I looked at.
The biggest play of the first scoring drive.
I did look at it. My number 4, it was the second of the 2 failed 4th downs. We'll get to the other one. This is the one where he simply overthrows Troy Franklin in the end zone. It's there. The play is there to be made, and it wasn't made. And it was only a 7-0 game at that point. Like, that's again, as we go back and read, we discuss and we kind of litigate the performance of the defense. I'm not trying to suggest the game would have been different if the Broncos settled for a field goal, but the game is significantly different if he just hits him for a touchdown. And it's a 7-7 game at that point. I don't know. We're doing butterfly effect stuff when we deal with this, but it's a huge, huge play. I mean, it's a massive moment. I get where Sean Payton was. Like, hey, if we lose by if we lose by 16 or lose by 30, what's actually the difference here? The only hope of winning is scoring a boatload of points, and so let's go try to get more points. But they left 7. I mean, the play was there to be made, and they left 7 on the table.
This was my number 4 as well. For a second, I honestly thought about putting it number 1 just because the play was there. Like as you said, like he was wide open. He had Millette beat. There was no safety back deep to help either. So they had it beat, and they just couldn't make the play. Definitely favorite helped the Ravens out quite a bit right there.
That's
that was my number 4.
Big turn, and it was never a. Was it ever a 1-possession game again?
It was
after that point.
The 17-10. So they.
Oh no, because they went back and got the touchdown to make it 10. Yeah. But the Ravens did take a 2-possession because they got the field goal on the next drive. They took a 2-possession lead. All right, number 3 for me is the bigger the play that you brought up, the throw to Justice Hill on 3rd and 4 from the 34 with 5:15 remaining in the second quarter. It was a 10-7 game. Obviously, I knew it was there was another 1-possession score. It was a 10-7 game at that point, and that was a long field goal you'd be staring at. And how good we feeling about long field goals right now? How you feeling comfortable about that?
No.
Yeah, no. And I'm not. I don't even know. Like, I think they probably do because it's a 52-yarder. I'm sure they kick the field goal. I'm sure they don't, go for it on 4th down in that spot. But that could be a swing, given Justin Tucker's struggles. That could be talking about a swing of 7 points in that moment. Obviously, it was just a gorgeous throw. God, it was so beautiful, that throw. Like, you just want to.
This was the wheel route.
Yeah, the wheel route to Justice Hill was just spectacular. But yeah, it's my number 3 as it kept that drive alive, and ultimately they would score a touchdown to extend it out to 17-7.
That's a good pick. That one's not on my list. My number 3, which I guess there's certainly an argument for it to be higher, but the first 4th down stop.
My number 2
was it stops it was an 11 play. This was because they had an interception on the second play of the game. That was a tip ball, kind of fluky there. The Ravens didn't do anything with that. But this was the Denver's kind of first drive, And it was a really nice-looking drive. They were moving the ball, 6 minutes of game time. It was 11 plays, and they go for it on 4th and 1, and the Ravens come up and get this stop, and it ended up being a big swing.
If you want to add the
Ravens go down and
challenge,
score that.
if you want to add the challenge to it as well, that it required them to challenge a spot, which, as we all know in football, almost never works. It also required that there was a literal direct down the line camera for you to be able to get this overturned, right? There was a lot of stuff that went into this in order for it to work out. If the angle isn't right there, it's just not going to get overturned. It's just the nature of football anymore. That's why spot challenges are so hard to win. But yes, between the stop and the way that it sort of set the tone early on in the game, it was number 2 for me. It was 4th and 1 should be converted. If you're going for it on 4th and 1, you should get it every time. We talked about this with the Ravens last week. 4th and 1 should almost be an assumed conversion. The defense should be at a disadvantage. It's a huge play. Massive play to get that stop. Number 2 on my list.
So the number 2, this is that sequence right before when the Broncos ended up kicking the field goal right before half with a minute left. So I was trying to go with figure out which play I want to use here, because it was the Ravens started using their timeouts. And then the Broncos ran the ball again, or they didn't run the ball. It was like a swing pass, or I think it was a handoff. It was Michael Burton was the guy, and he was trying to, or I don't know if he was trying, but he was supposed to stay in bounds. He ends up he goes out of bounds on second, and that was 2nd and 7. They got no gain on the play.
Yep.
Kyle Hamilton made the tackle, and obviously he was trying to get him out of bounds. And Broncos didn't. The Broncos guy didn't really have too much fight back. The Ravens take their second timeout, and then that's the holding call against Hamilton. That Nick scrambles and scores. That play gets nullified. Doesn't happen. So I will default to the 3rd and 17 play, I guess, as the next play.
I think that you're better. First of all, it's too high on the list because none of the plays are that. The fact that you're sort of
it gets
proves
a stop.
Yeah, I get the the argument that you're making for the sequence is good, and I think if you have to use one play to represent the sequence, it is the penalty, because that's the most significant of all of that, because it's the one that backed him up the 10 yards. It's just the only justification for it being number 2 is that it took a touchdown off the board, and I can't. The touchdown didn't happen.
So then count it as a stop then, and they stopped the Broncos from scoring a touchdown.
They did stop the Broncos from scoring a touchdown,
and also you get the ball back with a minute left instead of.
But in other plays, they also stopped the Broncos from scoring at all, on the 2 4th downs, which is why those should be higher on the list. Look, again, it is significant. It's not. There are. If somebody scores, somebody appears as though they might have had a 60-yard touchdown, and there was a hold, and so it comes back, and then somebody, like Ryan would do this sometimes. Ryan would put that on his list, and I'd be like, dude, the play never happened. And assuming you can't do that. The actual result of the 10-yard penalty here is significant. It really is, because it's the difference in manageable versus unmanageable. And, it's kind of wonky because the Ravens didn't take their final timeout, and they actually didn't need it.
Yeah, they didn't need it.
Which is the goofiest part about all of this. But they, from 3rd and 17, they still have to try to get the touchdown, so they have to throw the ball. They can't just, run the ball, force the Ravens to call their last timeout.
So if you look at the play, if Hamilton's not getting held, can we assume that he's gonna get the nicks, and then he probably loses 3 yards or something if maybe 2 yards because he's getting held in the backfield, and and so then that makes it a 3rd and I guess that would bring up 4th down.
That would have brought up 4th down.
So
look, I'm okay with it being on the list. I think you have it too high. I think that the touchdown aspect of it is the part that, and I think that's the tough part of this. But again, I can make your argument for the play being on the list because the 10 yards really was significant ultimately, because 3rd and 7 from the 9, while still tough, that's not an ideal spot, it's still, you can use the middle of the field. They've already shown they're willing to go for it on 4th down in certain spots. If they get 4 yards on that play, force the Ravens to burn one more timeout in the middle of the field, they might well be choosing to go for it 4th and 3 from the 5. The 10 yards changes a lot. The penalty itself is very significant. Just not number 2 significant.
It helped.
It helped. I'm not saying it didn't help.
Definitely helped.
It's just not number 2. It's okay. It's a tough week for a list. It was a very tough week. I'm giving you I thought your list last week was better than this, but I don't think this is bad. And I think the game.
I don't think it's bad either. I think you might even be right.
It's not, but that's okay. I love you anyway. Number 1. Obviously, it's the Zay Flowers play. I mean, there's no debate about it. You get the ball back with 54. What was it? 54 seconds.
55.
54 seconds. You get the ball back there. You're not assuming that you're scoring a touchdown. Your thought process is best case scenario, we get into field goal range. And that's not even a given. So you can say you're stealing 4 points in that spot. You could argue you're stealing 7 because it's not a given that you're going to get into field goal range, but where were they? They were at the 42 at that point, still with
when
they were at the 47.
Yes,
they were at the 47-yard line, still with 16 seconds left. Now, again, this goes back to where's your faith in Justin Tucker? Because I can say reasonably you assume you're getting another 10 yards. You're giving yourself a field goal opportunity. You can make an argument that you stole up to 7 points in that spot. I think you definitively stole 4. You might have stolen 7.
Well, I mean, you almost stole because since you get the ball at the second half, like it's almost like you
right. You're getting the ball in the second half no matter what, right? Like I get the value of it. It feels like those points are more valuable than other points you score because it's deflating to your opponent to know that you just gave up points when they're going to get. Yeah, thank you. They're going to get the ball back as well. But yeah, it's by far and away the highest volatility of any play in the game. Zay Flowers taking off after the great catch and connecting for a 53-yard touchdown. So that's number 1 for sure.
Nail in the coffin. That was number 1 as well.
Yep,
you got that one right. Yep.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate you informing me of that.
You got 2 right. So you got.
Oh,
you got
how
1
about
and 4.
that?
You got 1 and 4.
Oh yeah,
right.
those are the only 2. The only 2. Everything else I was a little off on. We'll get our 5 plays that told the story up at glennclarkradio.com here in a bit. Let's get. Oh, you know what? Tidbit. Before we do tidbit, last night's final was also a sports question.
Gotcha.
A trivia. The hilarious part about it is that it's something we talked about on the show recently. They ripped it off from Final Jeopardy 2 weeks ago. So Proctor and I died laughing. We thought, because we were like, oh my God, we just did this.
It was like
we thought it was they repeated a trivia question, but then he remembered it was just a Final Jeopardy question that he had posed to me to ask you.
Gotcha.
You did not do well with it. I'm going to give it to you again and see how it goes. On. There are 2 schools in the Southeastern Conference.
Oh yeah, no, I know.
Who are both based in a city that shares a name.
It would be Columbia, right?
Yes.
So Scarolina.
And
the other one, Mizzou.
Yay! You learned. Hooray!
Guys could have used me last night, huh?
Well, I know. I knew it immediately. We were dying.
I mean,
laughing. There was also the halftime's the music question.
Every SEC school.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the team there were 2 teams ahead of us going into the final. One of them got it. The halftime music question was prefaced this way: name from the song that you're about to hear. Name the 2 artists and the year that it came out. And I said, like everybody was like, what is it, like a duet? Is it like Islands in the Stream? Is it The Boy Is Mine by Brandy and Mont? And I swear to God, our movie guy Brad said, I hope it's Pitbull and Kesha. And I swear to God, the next thing you hear is Swing Your Partner Round and Round.
Wow.
We just started. We're the only everybody else in the room is like, what? Like, why are these guys laughing like this? We're dying. He had just said it, and that's the next thing we hear is Swing Your Partner Round.
Impressive stuff.
Except we got the year wrong.
Oh no! Wait. So you needed the year that song came out?
Yes, Timber, of course.
13.
You wish we would have had you. We went a little earlier. We went 2010. Went 2010. That's what we got. That was.
Just call me for the 2010s pops.
That's what
questions.
we need you for.
Yeah.
That's gonna be the
2010
thing.
pops.
There was a round, and we did go a perfect 4 for 4 on these, and they do traipse into sports. It was Kamala and the Donald. Answer these questions about Kamala Harris or Donald Trump. Number 1, which USFL team did Donald Trump own from 1984 to 1985?
Yikes! Yeah, for 2 years. What was the New York team? Let's go with. I don't think they were U.S. Are they the same team names now, or are they all different? I don't think I could name any.
Well, the UFL is not the USFL.
Yeah,
there's no lineage between that.
Well, they brought in some of the USFL, So are there same teams? Any of those teams still exist?
I don't know. I got to be honest with you. I have no idea.
All right, I'll go San Antonio Brahmas.
Yeah, they definitely did not exist. The team.
That's why I was asking.
The team named after The Rock. That's the team that would have existed in 1984.
Maybe
was the team named after The Rock.
That's
really
why is Brahmas? What is
the
that?
Brahma Bull? That was his nickname.
Oh, okay.
The Brahma Bull is The Rock. Yes, that's what the Brahmas are. They're named
All
after
right,
The Rock.
then the DC Defenders.
Yeah, it was the New Jersey Generals.
Oh, it was close.
New Jersey
Generals.
Generals.
New York something.
Number 2, who did Kamala Harris replace?
Did anyone get that one?
Yeah, I got it. Who did Kamala Harris replace as the U.S. Senator for the state of I got all 4 of these. I went 4 for 4. Replaces the U.S. Senator for the state of California in 2017. Just go ahead and say you don't know.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Nailed it. Barbara Boxer.
You got that one?
Yes. I know things, Griffin.
You're a nerd.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. Although I was like, it was Boxer, right? Because I knew it wasn't Dianne Feinstein because she just
knew that.
Left a couple years ago.
I would have known that, too. I would have known it wasn't Dianne Feinstein.
And yeah, you would have known that. You would have been all over it. Number 3, from what university did Kamala Harris receive her undergraduate degree?
So she was a senator in California, so let's go Stanford.
Not even close.
All right, Oregon.
Not even close.
Rutgers.
Closer. Geographically, anyway.
NYU.
Nope. Getting further away. She'll be there tonight for her watch party.
Temple? I don't know.
Getting closer.
Villanova. LaSalle.
You're not in Philadelphia.
Drexel.
You're just moving geographically closer.
Okay, Wilkes. I don't
No. It's not in Pennsylvania. It's just closer than New Jersey.
Princeton.
I'm telling no. You go further.
Further south?
Yes.
North Carolina.
Go back north.
Not Maryland.
Not Maryland, but very close.
Georgetown.
Still very close.
St. Mary's of Maryland.
No, you were closer.
Was Georgetown?
Yes.
What are the other? There's a lot of American.
You're
George
close.
Washington.
Not close. Very close geographically.
DZ
Couldn't be
schools.
closer.
Is it Division 1?
Yes. Basketball.
I feel like what other DC? I gotta remember all the DC schools. Howard.
Yay! Hey. And this is the one you'll be very embarrassed if you don't get this one. In the WrestleMania 23 match titled Battle of the Billionaires, what was the name of the ECW World Champion who represented Donald Trump against Vince McMahon?
What year was this? Do I get the year?
I don't know what year it was, to be honest with you.
WrestleMania 23. So we just had 40, right?
Yeah, I guess it was 17 years ago.
They represented Trump, and this was 07-ish.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. John Cena.
I will tell you, you're an MMA guy.
Okay, so Lesnar.
No.
Randy Orton.
Not as accomplished in MMA as Lesnar.
Oh, CM Punk.
No. Actually accomplished.
Let's go. Randy
he
Couture.
Went 15-2 in his MMA career.
And he's like a heavyweight. Like, is this?
Oh, he's definitely a heavyweight. No doubt about that.
He was he in the UFC or he was just
I don't
MMA?
believe he was ever in UFC. He was in Bellator.
Not Fedor.
Not Fedor.
Because he fought a lot.
He was in Strike Force at one point.
Strike Force and Bellator. He represented in pro wrestling.
Mm-hmm. Known as a pro wrestler. Known as a very accomplished pro wrestler.
Darn it.
Former WWE champion. Now just recently debuted in AEW. 48 years old and looks amazing. Like, I normally say 48-year-olds should not
How
be.
recently in AEW?
Debuted
that I
last week
watched?
in AEW.
I don't know.
Bobby Lashley. Great Bobby Lashley, who could
Lashley is
not
pretty
look
great.
better. God,
He's 48.
48 years old. You'd never think it. You look at that guy, you're like, that's the human. All due respect to Brock Lesnar, doesn't look anywhere near as good as Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley, it might be the single greatest looking human being on the face of the planet. Like, physique combined with like pure look, like, God, that dude is insane. Yeah, Bobby Lashley was the answer. There was also a round last night at trivia that was they just put up pictures of different sports fields, and could you identify them?
That's a fun one.
The first one was women's lacrosse, but they took lacrosse, so like I was annoyed by that. The others were cricket and curling and
okay. It wasn't like specific
soccer
stadiums.
it was just what the field, what the playing field looks like. This one was the only one we struggled with.
Dressage.
No, we struggled with this one. I don't know if you can see what you're looking at there. If you need to.
So like that's the out of bounds. Like it's an oval shape.
It's an oval shape. All they tell you is there's center circles, center square, 50-meter line, and goal square.
Not Foursquare.
Not Foursquare for sure.
No.
Nothing like Foursquare.
Let me see
Similar.
Let me see the peek real quick again.
Yeah. Take a look at that. See if you can come up with it, because we did get it right, but we were between two things.
That's not like partial of the field. That's the
field.
Field.
That's the field.
Man.
Proctor threw an idea. I got to give Proctor
Quidditch.
credit. It's not Quidditch. It's a real sport. This one, Proctor threw it out, and I said,
There's
I
real sport. There's
like
like Quidditch
that.
clubs.
I like that a lot, and we decided to go with it.
You
We
got
were
it
the
right?
only ones in the bar that get it right.
Wow, you still came in second.
Well, again, we lit 2 points on fire to guess Slumdog Millionaire.
Darn. It's a ball sport?
Yes.
Not rugby.
Not rugby.
Aussie rules football.
Aussie rules football is
Really?
correct.
All right.
That is correct. Got it right. All right, Tidbit is brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel. What's going on at Live Casino?
$7 in free slot play for every touchdown scored during Baltimore or Washington.
Brian Powell
home
actually had the
games.
guess.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Live Rewards members, they get $7 in free slot play for every touchdown scored during Baltimore or Washington's home games this season. You have to have your Live Rewards card inserted correctly into the slot machine. Any slot machine on the floor, actively playing when a touchdown is said score, and then you receive your prize, $7 in free slot play for Baltimore or Washington home games anytime this season. Adderall Mills must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, what you got?
Patrick already referenced it. Obviously, the 2020 game was pretty impressive from Derek Queen. 22 points, 20 rebounds, and Jason Yellen actually shared a quick little graphic, I guess, of the last time that 2020's happened. All right, he is the second player to post a 2020 in his freshman debut in the last 27 seasons. So since the 96 season. So since 1996, he is the second player to have a 2020 game in his debut.
At Maryland or
ever
ever
in college basketball.
Is it Tim Duncan?
Not Tim Duncan. 96. It happened in. Did not happen in 96. I guess that was just as far as they went back for data.
Wait, what? Oh, since 96.
Yeah. So
I thought you meant
it didn't happen in 96. It happened.
Okay.
It happened in 07.
Happened in 07.
He dropped 32 and 24 boards, 32 points.
That's not 07. Could that have been Greg Oden?
Not Greg Oden. Would that have been the year after? I don't know.
All right, give me a school.
Kansas State.
Is that Beasley?
Michael Beasley.
Okay.
32 and 24 in his collegiate debut.
All right.
So second player since 96 to do that. 22 and 20 for Derek Queen. And Patrick mentioned it, first Maryland player to even post a 2020 game since 1995 in the NCAA tournament. Joe Smith. He is the first freshman since not just their debut, but the first freshman since 2022 to post a 2020 game. It was for this Memphis freshman in 2022. In I guess this was the American tournament. I guess March 11th, 2022.
American tournament.
He was drafted by the Pistons. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 2022. 20
2022?
Mm-hmm.
Why do I not remember? Hang on a second. Am I going to feel stupid for this?
No, I don't think you'll feel stupid, but I mean, it's
I don't
it's
remember.
somewhat of a name. It was you just wanted Jalen Duran. Or Duran.
Okay.
Jalen Duran. Yeah, he's on the Pistons now. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out if there were any other good ones for the Dairy Queen. But yeah, I mean, yeah, just Joe Smith is pretty much like the last answer for half of them.
Joe Smith was so good, man.
Yeah,
so freaking good.
Zach Edey also had a nice game last night. He dropped 25 points, 12 rebounds, 4 blocks, and shot 90% from the field.
Okay.
He is only the second rookie in NBA history to do that in a game.
I mean, is this the trivia or?
No.
Okay, then just we might need to.
Houston Rockets rookie.
Houston Rockets rookie Akeem Olajuwon.
Akeem Olajuwon dropped 25, 12, 4, and shot 90 from the field. Zach Edey did that last night. And then Derrick Henry, 100th rushing touchdown of his career over the weekend. 10th player to reach the century mark rushing touchdowns.
Okay. Emmett.
Emmett is number 1, 164.
LT.
LT's number 2, 145.
Adrian Peterson.
Adrian Peterson's number 4.
Oh, who's ahead of Adrian Peterson? I don't know. I'll still say Jim Brown.
Jim Brown is 6th.
How about Walter Payton?
5th. And it looks like Derrick Henry is going to catch those guys. Payton had 110. Jim Brown had 106. So they're definitely an eye shots.
Marshall Faulk?
Right at 100, yes.
Really?
Yeah. One other player also right at 100.
Barry Sanders?
99.
Son of a bitch. I mean, it's amazing he got the 99 given how short his career was, but all right. How about
Derrick Henry got quicker than Barry did.
Thurman Thomas?
Barry played 153. Not Thurman Thomas. Derrick Henry's played 128 games already.
John Riggins?
John Riggins is 7th on the list, yes. Okay. That'll be the next one that Henry surpasses at 104.
I'm missing 2?
Henry is 7. You're missing 1.
Yeah, I'm missing 2. Right?
Yeah, 2. Yeah.
Dorsett?
No Dorsett.
Dickerson?
No Dickerson. Dickerson had 90. Where's Dorsett? Dorsett had 77.
Bum.
Yeah, for real.
Scrub. Curtis Martin?
No Curtis Martin.
Edgerrin James?
No Edgerrin James. Edgerrin James had 80. Curtis Martin had 90.
Marcus Allen?
Marcus Allen, number 3.
Okay.
123 behind LT and Emmett Smith.
Frank Gore?
That's a good guess, but not Frank Gore. Gore had 81. Another bum.
Yeah, loser. How does he show his face? How about Jamal Charles?
He might have like the most most games played as a running back.
Fred Taylor?
Not Fred Taylor.
Jesus.
This guy had a finish with exactly 100.
Franco Harris?
Not Franco Harris. He had 91.
I mean, is it?
Well, how many touchdowns is it?
No, I don't care how many. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think if I want you to start giving me clues. Because I've named basically all the Hall of Famers.
I think he was on. Yeah, he was on the cover of Madden.
He was on the cover of Madden. Maurice Jones? No, he was on the cover of Madden. Is Chris Johnson on the cover of Madden?
No, it's not Chris Johnson. Was Chris Johnson? He might have been.
It's not a catch, and like Michael Vick somehow had 100 rushing touchdowns.
No.
Can't be Terrell Davis. He didn't play long enough.
Yeah, but Chris Johnson was on Madden 10.
Thought he was.
Not
Jerome Bettis?
Not Jerome Bettis. He's at 91. You've got the top 15 except for this guy.
God damn it. Cover of Madden. Priest? Did I say Priest?
You got the top 16 with
Christ.
Priest was at 86.
He's on the cover of
Madden 07.
Sean Alexander? Was he the cover of Madden?
He was.
Yeah, I don't
Madden 07.
I can't believe he also had 100 touchdowns. That's nuts.
Exactly 100
touchdowns. Sean Alexander was a hell of a player, but I would have never guessed.
So actually, he got there quicker than Derrick Henry. 123 games.
Wow.
Oh, Jim Brown actually 118 games in his career. So
there's a much stronger Hall of Fame argument for Sean Alexander than I realized there was. Jesus.
Yeah. Sean. You got the whole top 16 there.
Wow.
So well done.
That's wild. Sure. All right, very good. Let's get tubular.
Have you ever thought of taking a cruise to these wonderful destinations with sunny skies and beautiful beaches? Well, wait no longer. We're ready for you to cruise from the Cruise Maryland Terminal.
Have a little phrase that you can go from baggage to margarita in about 15 minutes.
Choose fun with an array of destinations, onboard activities, entertainment, and world-class cuisine.
Contact your travel agent and book your cruise today. Let your adventure begin.
All right, just, taking another perusal around the interwebs. Still not really seeing anything else. It's just the 3 from this morning still, and, let's sign off so the Ravens can make a move, I guess. Here's what's coming up, totally tubular.
There was a good tidbit I did see.
Yes.
The Bengals trading for
Khalil Herbert.
Yeah, Khalil Herbert.
Yeah.
Second player in season player trade the Bengals have made ever.
That's
they only made
interesting.
Yeah, they only made
Who was
one.
the other one?
Was in 2020.
I don't remember.
They traded for
2020. It's not real.
They traded for Carlos Dunlap.
Okay.
That's the only two.
So funny when
in-season.
Griffin brings up something from 2020 like it was an actual thing that actually happened.
I thought so.
Look, there's not a lot going on tonight because of the election. It's what it is. College soccer, the regular season wraps up for UMBC. They host NJIT at 7. Loyola hosts Bucknell at 7, both on ESPN+. The first college football playoff ranking show is tonight at 7 o'clock, so there's that. Then Miami, Ohio. Yeah, Miami, Ohio, and Ball State at 8 on ESPN. ESPN2, Bowling Green, and Central Michigan at 7:30. Again, very little college basketball tonight. The only game on TV, Big Ten Network, UC Davis and Washington at 10. CBS Sports Network, Champions League, Lille and Juventus at 3 o'clock. No professional wrestling. Professional wrestling is taking the night off for the election.
Towson women are playing West Virginia.
There you go.
On
There's
ESPN Plus.
Okay.
So you can
All
watch
right.
that.
You can watch that.
Yeah, everything else. It's gonna be
the election. Yeah. the election
there is a new
what
episode
it
of Aaron Hernandez that they are doing. They are still showing that.
I mean, some
on
things
FX.
are sacred,
Yeah.
obvious.
Yeah.
Can't skip an Aaron Hernandez show for this stupid election. That'd be nuts. All right, very good. That's coming up tonight. Thanks today to Mark Clayton. Thanks to Joe Serpico. Thanks to Brenda Frese and to Patrick Stevens. We'll get it all up in the greatest hits section of the
Here we go.
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. We're never going to fix it. It's just never going to happen.
I guess not.
Anything tomorrow?
Iron Eagle will.
The great
join us
Iron
tomorrow.
Eagle's joining
Yes.
us tomorrow. He's doing Westwood 1 for the Ravens game on Thursday night. Is Jeff Diamond joining us tomorrow?
Not tomorrow. Not tomorrow.
Okay.
He will join us this week.
Okay.
And Drew will be here.
Oh, Drew will be here. Good.
Perfect day for Drew to
Yeah, love that. Come back. Love that. Oh, boy. I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can do 2 hours of Drew tomorrow.
Well, we're talking sports tomorrow.
Best case scenario is the election is not decided tonight. That's the best case scenario for dealing with Drew tomorrow. Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Live Casino and Hotel, Cruise Maryland, Crown Trophy, Easy Pass, Royal Farms, Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, the Costas Inn, MSAA, the Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Tuesday evening. Go Loyola and UMBC soccer. Go America.
Yeah, that's why we're the red, white, and the blue
something
flannel.
like that.
I'm rooting for America.
Yeah, Duke sucks.